The story opens with a brutal battle. The emperor's guard, born a slave, sacrificed himself while resolutely protecting the emperor who madly made a pact with a demon. An incompetent failure for not seizing the moment, but regardless that did not satisfy me. You are the emperor's guard, came later. Before Cain left forever, someone shouted in his face, "Why did you draw your sword at the last moment instead of disappearing cleanly from everyone's memory, you foolish Cain?" That was Halo Reston, the leader of the rebel army. You smiled contentedly at your choice today. I have lived 29 years as an orphan and this is the choice I made. Stop making excuses to cause trouble, young Master Duke. Cain's gaze gradually dimmed, Halo's screams grew faint. You could have fled, so why choose this path? Halo screamed your name through tears. Cain opened his eyes. Bastard, get up, you have gone forever, leaving Halo with regret. The truth is, before leaving, Cain had cried, "Damn you, Cain." In the eternal realm someone's footsteps softly approached. You walked unconsciously, wondering where this place was. In the boundless galactic space you silently guessed that death was like this. Cain smiled contentedly. So freedom wasn't all that. Well then, that guy will manage somehow. Fine, I will enjoy this thing called freedom to the fullest. A blue light from a rift in space drew Cain. White mist emanated and moved closer to him. A thin beam of light covered him as if signaling a major change was about to occur. Cain wondered what this was. He opened his eyes. The blond man greeted warmly, "Your child was born healthy, Karen. Father, would you like to hold him once?" Rough hands reached out to take you. The boy did not cry, which was commendable. You wondered what the hell was happening. He blessed you, grow up healthy, my youngest grandchild. You recognized him immediately. Halo, though aged, it was indeed him. Amid the festive air the first cry rang out. Oh heavens, did it make him cry again? Karen was still bewildered, not understanding what was happening. What the hell is this? He quietly wondered, could he be Halo's grandson? In the bustling city, history recorded a momentous event. Cain later, the knight who died with the demon emperor 45 years ago. Though he could not stop his lord from walking the wrong path, as a symbol of loyalty by staying with his lord until the end, his image is still acknowledged to this day. This is the latest opinion from our modern historians' council. What does the young master think? Karen propped his chin and asked back, so what is the professor's opinion? David wondered. Yes. He answered based on his understanding. I think the Grand Duke probably wanted to restore the honor of his old friend, because the affair between Grand Duke Halo and Lord Cain had been a famously close friendship. You sat up with a mocking tone. Is that so? David blinked. What do you mean? You replied with knitted brows. I think grandfather may still harbor hatred toward his dead friend, so he deliberately smeared that friend's name. The boy was 10-year-old Karen Reston, third child of Halo Reston, eldest of Count Pale. David went pale and stupefied at the decisive answer. What is that kid saying? He asked again. What do you mean by that? Karen guessed Halo's past intentions. His grandfather disagreed with the choice to die instead of walking the revolutionary path with Cain, despite Cain wanting a quiet death rather than the glory of a hero. David mused and concluded, a quiet death. And in fact there are records that the duel between the Grand Duke and Cain later ended too quickly, not matching the equal strength of the two, even as unofficial history. If Cain chose death instead of fighting his friend to the end or joining the revolution, that is an acceptable argument. You flipped through the pages probing. Wasn't that so? David was astonished by your intellect, a 10-year-old reasoning so sharply. But if I agree with that brutal idea, I fear the Duchy Knights will behead me for disrespect. Thinking that he found it hard to answer the matter. David could only excuse himself. I never considered that aspect. Karen smiled with pleasure at David's embarrassment. You smirked to correct. It was just a joke, so why are you so surprised, teacher? After class you walked off. Right now my name is Karen Reston. Everyone can see I'm the youngest grandson of Duke Reston. For now that's the case, it will take some time to grasp the situation. But the conclusion is that I was reborn as Halo Reston's grandson. That name really doesn't read the situation, daring to make me a hero. What doesn't need to be said, you should understand yourself. Karen caught a glimpse of Pale, Halo's youngest son. That is my father. You cleared your throat to regain focus for him. Pale heard and turned to greet. Oh child, have you finished your lessons? Karen acknowledged and inquired. Yes father. Are you praying again? Indeed, still worried about your eye-opening ritual. Pale said in weary, confusing words. Father, I'm sorry son. Karen curiously asked why. He recounted, unlike your two uncles, I could not unlock magical power, so I'm worried that my own shackles will transfer to you. Karen stepped forward, placing his hand on his father's shoulder, calling father. No matter what others say to you, father will always be the greatest father. Pale blushed awkwardly. Karen. You are the most wonderful child of mine. Pale pinched your cheek making you bashful. Oh my son, let's go out to dinner. Do you want anything? You answered decisively, of course me. That night the magic stone hovered in the air. You grabbed it thinking of an eye-opening ritual. Your eyes lit up. The past surged back. An eye-opening ceremony. What is that? Halo answered. Then it's a ritual of our clan, an old outdated tradition, a rite to unlock latent magical power in the body. You scoffed and dismissed it. So even magic can be spoon-fed wealth. Sorry, but I don't care about such trivial things. Halo explained in detail. Not everyone can unlock magic, and even if they do, it doesn't mean they qualify to become clan head. Moreover, there's a terrible secret passed down only to the clan head from generation to generation. Karen showed interest. A secret. Like a great treasure or the location of a grimoire that can grant wishes. Halo slung his sword over his shoulder, excited. So are you starting to feel interested? You glanced to distract. Maybe a little something like being able to live peacefully somewhere with no demons knowing. Halo sighed, which angered you. Damn it, you're mocking your friend's small dream. I'm holding a weapon here, believe it or not. Halo suddenly blurted out, making you curious. Alright. One day when I become clan head I will specially tell you that secret. Back in reality, Karen sat silently by the window. The ritual to unlock magic power was the star eye opening rite. His whole body glowed. Father, you need not worry. Mana erupted from his body. His eyes shone brightly and resolutely. I completed the mana eye-opening rite long ago. The next morning the station platform was bustling. Someone said it looked miraculous. The other replied, yes, because this is my first time taking the train. Domiya briefly explained to you that many of the techniques used to build this train could be commercialized because you and your father directly sponsored it. Karen excitedly agreed. Indeed it is so. Pale was a little embarrassed. Madam, she really said that out loud. She winked at you. Although father and son said that it is actually wonderful, I know and I fully approve. Of course I am truly very proud of father, that's the truth even without having opened my mana eye. Pale scratched his head and smiled awkwardly. You praise him, but he is an extraordinary man, funding 30% of the duchy's finances. A devoted father and a kind mother. Truly perfect parents. Suddenly the sky above darkened. The train accelerated toward its destination. In the carriage you stared blankly out the window. Suddenly you saw something that piqued your curiosity. A vast, splendid fortified castle. Karen guessed it was the Reston family seat. That gloomy place was Tonhai City. You squinted thinking that was where he lived. You thought of the solemn bearing of Halo Reston and Kane in their current bodies. With fierce determination you curled your lip in a delighted smile. You dare, you will feel a headache. Seeing Karen's strange expression, Pale tilted his head in puzzlement. Suddenly realizing something mysterious emanated. In Kane's form you declared, I will make you taste it. This very youngest grandson will give you a pounding headache. And now within your body you proclaim yourself the most unruly of the Reston clan. You curled your lip, eyes full of enthusiasm. Just wait, Halo. The train rolled forward amid change. Your adorable youngest grandson is coming. The train hurtled into the station. The Karen family stepped out of the carriage followed by servants carrying luggage. One who had been waiting bowed respectfully. You have arrived, third young master, long time no see. Pale politely raised his hand in greeting. It's been a year, hasn't it? How have you been? Heinrich replied courteously, thanks to the Duke's favor I have always been well. Karen noticed the soldiers behind them and they also paid attention to you. Are they the naval knights, those ones? The knights kept stern faces, their voices hushed but their eyes fixed on you. Could they have recognized that you awaken magic, truly different from the knights in your family's domain? You thought of the image of your close friend from a past life who is now your grandfather. This will soon reach his ears, but it's fine. Heinrich led the way. Shall we go? I'll take you to the main castle. Pale took a step with his suitcase. Let's go. In the splendid room a maid said respectfully, the count instructed you to wait here while he greets the elders of the clan. If you need anything please feel free to call us. Karen remained silent. Thank you. You surveyed the surroundings in admiration, not noticing the door behind you had opened. It's only a reception room yet so vast. You looked at the strange white scene in the city. It's boring here. I should have asked to be taken to the library instead. A haughty laugh rang out. The brat crossed his arms and sneered with contempt. Just arrived at the house and already demanding the library, as rumored, bookworm. Leo curled his lip in scorn. Being of your father's bloodline means a low chance of awakening mana, so at least you should study, and if you want to crazily chase money like the servants you should emulate your father. Karen fell silent, his face darkened, his hand clenched as he stepped forward. Leo was startled. What? Leo angrily flared mana in his hands and threatened. Humph. Want to die? Fine, then I'll use mana to teach you. Karen's gaze turned icy and murderous. So this house raised a prodigal son. Leo trembled before the overwhelming aura. What? His face went pale as he staggered back. Could it be you? How is that possible? Leo screamed in horror. Impossible. Since when did you awaken mana? I never heard father say. Karen smiled triumphantly, his body wrapped in dense mana. Of course, even my father didn't know. You changed the subject. Forget that. The important thing now is he still keeps his meager mana. Surprising, huh? Karen smiled amicably. Our family doesn't need two prodigals, right cousin? I'll take care of that now, so please step aside. Leo backed away in fear. What exactly are you saying? Karen, now like a demon bared fangs and claws, said briefly, you're invited to take the hit. In another room, he's awakened already, Heinrich kicked. Yes, the 3 captains of the knights who accompanied me confirmed it. Raphael propped his chin. Oh really? He folded his arms in reproach. Awakened mana and didn't report it to the family. Is there some hidden matter? Raphael Reston, second young master of the Reston family. Pale's face showed doubt. Could it be that even you didn't know? Tails soothed the atmosphere. Don't jump to conclusions, Raphael. If Pale couldn't awaken mana, it's understandable he wouldn't detect it. Tails Reston, eldest young master of the Reston family. Raphael snorted in annoyance. This is ridiculous. Suddenly a servant burst in panic. Master Steward, please come quickly. Heinrich slowly turned. What's happened? The servant stammered, his face darkened. The 3 brothers all turned to look. The man pointed into the room. Second young master. Raffles' face darkened and he stormed in. Pale ran after trying to calm his brother. There must be some misunderstanding. Raphael flew into a rage, his eyes bulging and veins standing out. Before them lay Leo, his face swollen, lying on the sofa. Karen turned back and politely bowed. Hello uncle. Before he finished, a large hand shot out. Raphael angrily hoisted him up and shouted, insolent brat with no manners, how dare you? You were stunned. Ah, Raphael raised his fist to teach you a lesson. What on earth were you thinking to do that? Pale rushed out to stop his brother. Please stop right there. Karen explained, it's that Leo insulted my father. You projected authority and countered. If it were you, uncle, could you have kept quiet? Raphael grew even more furious. This brat even dares to fabricate nonsense. Tails patted his shoulder to stop him. Shut up, Raphael. After all, it's because you didn't discipline him properly. Raphael was embarrassed by that. Heinrich appeared and cut off the argument. Please everyone stop. He calmly relayed that the family head said he will judge the matter himself. Pale gritted his teeth and grabbed his collar. Didn't you hear him? Let go. Raphael clicked his tongue. Damn it. The servant carried Leo away. Pale adjusted Karen's collar. Are you all right? You replied obediently, yes father, we're fine. Heinrich turned to go, then let's be off. Raphael glared back. Pale helplessly patted your shoulder. Come on, let's go. Karen frowned. Yes father, inwardly thinking long time no see, Halo. They strode down the corridor. The man curled his lips in a smile, his hand placed on the table to show authority. So what reason did you have to cause trouble as soon as you arrived at the castle? Pale waved his hands to explain father about this matter. Halo cut him off. I'm not asking you, Pale. He stated his position. I want to hear the answer from your son's own mouth. I know he is not someone who acts rashly without regard for consequences. There must be a reason. Tell it clearly. Karen judged inwardly. So even if you punish, you want to hear the reason first, pretending to be merciful about that. You were frank because Leo insulted my father. Raphael fumed until smoke nearly came out. Aren't you going to tell the truth? Halo slammed the table and shouted, shut up Raphael, do you dare raise your voice before me? Raphael, seeing his father's anger, stopped. I'm sorry father. Halo moved on to other matters. Just summon Leo for verification and it's settled. Heinrich, has Leo's treatment finished? He respectfully replied, yes master, let me take him to the study. Halo looked at Karen. I want to ask you one more thing. You anticipated and clearly answered. If it's about mana, then I awakened 3 years ago. This made everyone astonished. 3 years. Halo was satisfied but puzzled. Then why until now even your father didn't know you awakened on your own 3 years ago? This brat. Karen explained, at first I discovered it while reading, later I realized it was mana. Halo curious, and then? You scratched your head and smiled awkwardly. I just wanted to keep it secret. Secrets are more fun. The knights in the domain didn't know either, so it was even more enjoyable. Halo clasped his hands, slightly disappointed. So it was that simple. Karen kept a childish grin. Hee hee, yes. The servant pushed the door and announced, Master Leo has arrived. Leo entered with his face bandaged all over. Halo asked Karen, saying, did you insult the youngest uncle? All eyes turned, making Leo flustered. About that. Karen seized the opportunity, sob, I'm sorry sir, even though Leo insulted my father as greedy and despicable with no right to inherit yet still arrogant and useless. Leo flinched. Karen continued, then I shouldn't have hit him either, I committed a grave mistake. Leo trembled and his nose ran, I didn't exaggerate that much. Karen turned back and balled his fist threateningly, which made Leo terrified, sob. Halo calmly asked, are Karen's words true? Leo dared not disobey and agreed, yes, that's correct. Halo rubbed his temple. Then for now, since the awakening ceremony will take place tomorrow, the punishment of both will be postponed. At night the castle remained lit. Halo ordered, that's enough for today everyone, withdraw and rest. Voices drifted by the window. Heinrich, what do you think of Pale's child? Heinrich replied, I think there are quite a few points that caught the Lord's attention. Halo agreed, interesting indeed, that brat awakened 3 years ago and hid it until now. He raised his wine glass. Moreover, he subtly questioned the competence of the knights we sent to Pale's domain, as if implying we underestimated Pale. Heinrich helplessly, I think you are overthinking it. Lord Halo sipped his wine, hoping so, but this boy is somewhat unusual. Halo set his glass down. If it's truly special, then tomorrow will make it clear. He stood up. Merely awakening mana isn't everything. Halo glanced out the window. The important thing is whether it can complete the ritual smoothly tomorrow, and if successful, what it will gain from it. The moonlight shone over the castle. I'm genuinely curious. Night fell in the quiet forest. A figure dashed toward the source of light. It approached a stone pillar in the midst of the woods. The slab emitted a strange blue glow. Night enveloped Tanhai City and the entire forest fell into absolute silence. Halo led the way, followed by retainers and descendants. While trailing him, Karen curiously observed the Reston family. He easily noticed the mana emanating from them despite being away from the capital. I could sense each of them were outstanding masters. Karen continued to inspect the members. Tails, the eldest son of the Reston family, and his daughter Leon, and Raphael, the second young master, and his son Leo. He smirked inwardly. The whole house arriving so boisterously like this surely means this matter is more important than I thought. Everyone stopped before a large rock. The mana around thickened more than before. The light made him immediately realize, could it be the blood oath stone? Halo took out the pendant and announced to begin the ritual. He slowly explained, when you step through the rift opened by the oath stone, you will see a world that this gem has chosen for itself. Hale was anxious while Karen listened intently. They said each person would see a different world from the oath stone. The ritual ends only when you use the weapon obtained there to destroy that world. He politely nodded after the man finished speaking. Yes, grandfather. Halo's gaze remained fixed on him, carrying many implications. He brought the pendant close to the oath stone. Good, go for it. The surfaces touched and reacted noticeably. Magic flared from the stone pedestal, forming a barrier around them. The power grew stronger, standing out in the forest. Hale and Karen widened their eyes in surprise at the light before them. Halo stood before the gate and asked, what are you waiting for? Are you trembling? Hale worriedly looked at him. Karen, are you really okay? He touched his father's hand to reassure him. I'm fine, father. I'll return soon. He confidently stepped forward. Must I use the weapon obtained there to destroy the world? The corner of his mouth curled into a triumphant smile. Too easy. His body gradually passed through the spatial gate, destruction being my specialty. Before that, Halo suddenly seemed eager. Karen, overcome your fear and go. He turned back, puzzled, looking at him. Overcome my fear. After he stepped into the gate, it closed by itself. He was quickly transported to a completely unfamiliar place. Heat spread and red flames blazed, leaving him stunned. This place recreated a scene of desolation before Karen's eyes. The young man walked along the road in confusion. Why is this? Show me the memories of this place. A few dying soldiers leaned against the wall. His mood weighed heavy. Do you want me to feel guilty for comrades dying unjustly? He looked up and saw a sparkling light from the door leading to the throne. A familiar voice rang out, another harsh, desolate world. Hey, child of the blue wool. The door suddenly turned blazing red. The moment of the pact has come. I have come to fulfill the promise to your ancestors. Shiny shoes stepped lightly up the blood-stained steps. You are. Karen stared at the mysterious figure and exclaimed, a demonkin. He continued, the bloodline in your veins is a feeble demon path that cannot be violated. He pushed with all his strength at the great door. Overcome your fear and step onto the throne. What you yearn for lies there. The deep red floor struck his eyes. Long time no see. In the distance, faint rays of light shone on the throne. It was what the emperor desperately protected, even allying with demons. As he advanced, the gap behind him narrowed. Little did I know we and my comrades had to die for that rotten throne. It feels like walking over my brother's corpses. The demonkin continued, hey child blessed by the cold North Sea, even if your soul is lost. He congratulated Karen, "At last you have come, on behalf of the Blue Clan we welcome you." His face darkened. That memories of Cain surged back. "The sword is your weapon." He was surprised. It was the beloved sword the Emperor once bestowed, the blood-marked demon sword. The demon kin urged, "Pour your mana into it." Karen froze. "What? That is a demon sword, it will devour the wielder's soul." His voice calmly reassured him, "The incantation lodged within it was long ago purged by your grandfather, what you see is only the warped, demonic form left behind. Wake the sword, boy," he insisted. "Only you can awaken it." Karen still hesitated. "Is it safe if I touch the sword?" His hands clenched. "What if I become an emotionless puppet and kill on the Emperor's orders?" The image of Halo cut through his thoughts. "Overcome your fear, Karen." He gradually realized and smiled. "So that's it," rarely gentle, unexpectedly. Karen resolved to approach the demonic sword. It turned out the true purpose of the awakening ritual was not to obtain a weapon but to force the heir who awakens blue perception to face and overcome the root fear in their heart. His hand touched the familiar hilt. Upon touching it, mana was forcefully drawn out by the sword. His eyes widened as a numbness ran through his mind. His body fell amid the waters. Is this blue perception? The blood-marked demon sword lay right beside him, the shape of the blood mark. The pure water slowly washed away the filth on the sword. "I do not know why it chose you in this form." The distance between him and the sword closed. It was originally the sword of the ancestor Rael. He used both hands to control the sword that your grandfather seized. It was also the ancestor's blade, but entirely different. Karen endured a violent shock of pain, because the power it possessed was completely different from the family's bloodline. He squeezed his eyes shut and gritted his teeth to endure. Everything suddenly reverted to the beginning, startling him. "What is this?" the mysterious figure reminded him. "Endure, the mana in the sword is inscribing onto your body." His face was drenched in sweat yet full of excitement. "The mana in my body is far stronger than a sword, and the mana has such terrifying might." Karen carefully inspected the sharp blade. "Indeed, the blue perception is marvelous. So what is the true name of this sword?" He quickly replied, "The sword that has slain countless demons, devouring their power. A sword whose name makes even demons tuck tail and flee, to the point history had to erase all records. A blade born from the deep northern sea, dark yet pure, light reflecting on its edge, the cutting sword guillotine." Karen was drawn in. "The cutting sword guillotine," the mysterious figure said, "a black sword like an abyss suits your fate well, boy, you wonder, who are you?" Karen guessed the speaker claimed to be of the Blue Clan. "Could you be the Blue Dragon guardian of our family?" He denied it. "You lack the skill to speak my true name." He made a request that made him sigh. "If one day you master the seas, come find me in the North Sea." Karen fell silent, then asked, "How do I get out now?" He answered, "You know very well." He turned his attention to the throne. "Ah, so it is." He swung the sword with excitement. "Wonderful, I've wanted this for a while." He decisively unleashed a powerful strike, destroying the throne. Outside, Pale's worry showed in his actions. Halo noticed and reassured. "Don't worry too much." Pale hesitated apologetically. "Father, it's just that." He nodded, watching his child walk a new path, surely not easy. "I understand." Halo sternly advised, "Precisely because of that you must keep your composure." Pale gave a faint smile. "Yes, father." Leo was the first to shout when he noticed movement. "The oath stone is." He hurried to inform his grandfather. "The oath stone is cracking." Halo looked over in astonishment. "What?" A second later the rock split in two before them. He covered his face in shock. "What's happening?" "The ones they waited for to return with weapons." Karen rubbed his head in confusion. "Have I truly returned?" The corner of his mouth twisted into a crooked smile. "The oath stone is destroyed." The Reston family once stood stunned at the sight. Karen fumbled, then noticed the fragments at his feet, hesitating. "The oath stone is broken." Pale's face turned pale with severe shock. "Karen, what did you do? How dare you break the oath stone?" He pretended ignorance and turned to Halo. "Grandfather." He did not scold but was startled by something else. He recognized the sword in his hand, the cutting sword guillotine, the decapitating blade of ancestor Rael. It had been erased from the family's history and preserved only by the head of the house and the elders' oral tradition. So why did not only he but also the masters accompanying him notice that it appeared here? Halo immediately questioned Karen. "Aren't you afraid of that sword? Could it be the moment of the covenant is drawing near?" Karen examined guillotine without a trace of fear and answered, to Halo's surprise, not afraid. Halo quickly accepted it. I see now. He began to reminisce about old times. Our ancestors failed to fulfill the pact with the Dragon Covenant to wipe out the demons that poured in from the world's edge. They left the Oath Stone as evidence, entrusting a vow to the future, waiting for someone special to complete the covenant. Could Karen be that heir? He ended his recollection raising his hand to the sky. I am Halo Reston, the declaration that followed shock. Declare Karen, son of Pale Reston, is an official member of the Blue Sea Fortress, a direct descendant chosen by guillotine and worthy to inherit the Sea Spirit secret technique. Raphael snapped angrily, unable to believe a brat like that received the Sea Spirit secret technique. Tails silently evaluated guillotine, while Pale worriedly checked if his son was hurt. Karen, are you obedient? Tails grew more suspicious, thinking he knew all heirloom weapons of the clan, yet he'd never heard of that sword. To him its aura was formidable, just looking at it sent chills down his spine. Nevertheless Tails insisted, Pale, your son is walking a path you never set foot on, but I will not let that throne be threatened by the variable named your son. As dawn broke Halo ordered the awakening ritual concluded, return now. Not a few steps later Raphael called out, elder brother. He protested, are you really going to just stand there and watch? Tails caught his meaning and replied, perhaps we should speak privately soon. Raphael nodded, that would be fine. Inwardly Tails judged that even an excessively greedy man must see the crisis now. Raphael changed the subject, by the way, do you know of the sword called guillotine? Tails reluctantly admitted, no. Raffles' anger flared, elder brother, I truly cannot comprehend this situation, why is it Pale's son? Tails turned his head forward and both directed their gaze at Pale and his son. Now is not the time for us to divide among ourselves. Time passed and the new day began brilliantly. At the station Pale was uneasy, is my son really okay staying alone? Karen decisively answered, yes father. Heinrich added, is there anywhere safer than the Blue Sea Fortress? Pale forced a smile, indeed, but regarding external threats it's safe, what I fear is Raphael and Tails, the danger from within. Pale thought, of course with father here I don't think those two would act rashly. Heinrich cleared his throat and called the third duke. He reminded that the one entrusted with passing the Sea Spirit secret technique to young Master Karen is Miss Sabina. Pale realized, oh it's her, his tone brightened, if it's her I'm even more reassured. Karen also took notice, Sabina, if it's her then certainly. He frowned inwardly, Sabina Reston, Halo's sister, famed as a master nearly equal to Halo, wasn't she once called the White Wolf? Pale cautiously reminded, she is very fond of me, so Karen, you must absolutely not be rude to her. The boy obediently nodded, yes father, I will do my best. Heinrich spoke up, and one more thing, a message from the family head. Pale surprised, from father. The message moved Pale, the speaker said they would prepare a residence for you in the Blue Sea Fortress so you can visit anytime. Pale quickly wiped a tear, is that true, father? He composed himself, I can leave without worry now, thank you. Heinrich politely replied, it's nothing. Pale gently patted his head, take care, if you need help contact me anytime. The boy cheerfully, yes father. The last train departed, taking everyone away. Karen was led by Heinrich up to the tower. The Sea Wolf Knights escorting him slowed and urged, come on, Miss Sabina is waiting. Karen reacted quickly, he could not let her wait, but Heinrich apologized and asked, may I offer you a piece of advice? Karen courteously replied, please go ahead and speak. Heinrich sternly warned, Miss Sabina hates being called madam, it's best you avoid using that term. He nodded, I'll remember, thanks for the reminder. What's wrong with calling my grandfather's sister madam? They passed through the sturdy city walls. Upon reaching the new land Heinrich explained that only direct descendants of the family are allowed to enter the training chamber in this Blue Sea Forest. Miss Sabina is waiting, please, young master, come inside. He suddenly remembered, and young Master Leo is present as well. Karen was delighted at the thought of staying with brother Leo. Heinrich carefully added that it seems the second young master personally requested Miss Sabina. They stopped. Karen waved farewell, off I go then. The small but passionate figure drew Heinrich's gaze. He pushed up his glasses and smiled, it's been a long time since things were this lively. An overwhelming surge of mana poured out from the entrance. Karen was on high alert, even standing outside he could sense the immense magical force. A cautious voice rang out, why are you still standing outside and not? He quickly pushed the door open, Karen Reston, son of Pale, I request permission to present myself. As he stepped in he was stunned by the scene. Sabina glanced over, oh who is this, surprised that I don't look like you imagine me to. Even sitting she exuded a noble aura, Karen, son of Pale. Sabina eyed him sharply. I never expected you to be Pale's son, the adorable one from before. Time truly flies. At this side Karen's mouth twitched repeatedly. She reconstructed her body with mana. How absurd, impossible for someone at the rank of an 8-star knight. The moment Karen entered, Sabina's cold voice rang out, "Why are you just standing there? Sit cross-legged at once." Her voice continued to echo, startling both Karen and Leo. "You may sit next to Leo." He immediately took the seat, turned to Leo beside him and smiled faintly. "We'll meet often, let's get along, brother Leo." Sabina sat to the side observing the two lazy figures and asked, "I never expected to hear the title, White Wolf, from a child like you." Karen replied carefully, "I've read it in books." Sabina sighed at his boldness. Indeed an interesting child, just as his brother said. Karen, unfazed and untroubled, continued, "May I ask what grandfather said about me?" Sabina coldly recalled Halo's proud manner when speaking of Karen, reciting that he is a child who makes others fond of him. "Now I understand why he said that." Her eyes brightened as she remembered Halo's true words. "This is a child who must cross the ocean, help that child so that one day he can rule the seas." Sabina's face turned solemn as she contemplated his admonition. She must become the lighthouse to guide Karen. Sabina quietly observed Karen's body and aura, marveling that from just a glance the child's potential was vast, fierce, and boundless. It could be called the potential of a great ocean. She likened him to violent waves, currently an untamed surge. Sabina kept evaluating him. He has great potential to master the seas. She stared at the two children sitting seriously opposite, with a hint of playfulness, thinking who would have expected to meet such a unique child here. She stood up briskly and slowly approached them. "Begin. The cross-legged posture you are sitting in is the most basic foundation for mana training." Sabina gently rotated her hand and explained seriously that once you pass the basic level you can train mana without sitting cross-legged. She immediately cast a powerful display of mana for the two to admire. Sabina's magical power erupted and struck directly toward Leo and Karen, leaving them astonished. Karen regained his composure and glared at Sabina. "This is blue sea mana." Sabina withdrew her mana and smiled softly, then explained seriously that the blue sea dominion technique is essentially a method of mastering the ocean. By using blue sea mana, you can create and operate an ocean within your body. Looking at the two sitting seriously opposite her, Sabina continued the lecture. "The more you operate it, the more the ocean of power grows. When you can operate 8 oceans, you can reach the 8-star realm. The stage of operating 8 oceans as one sea is called the 9-star level." Karen listened intently to her every word. Across the entire continent 3 people have achieved it, within the empire only 1 person. Sabina mentioned, with a slight smile, that the only person on the continent to reach 9 stars is your grandfather, who is also my elder brother, Halo. Karen's resolve surged. "Halo, in this life I will catch up to you." Sabina was taken aback by the determination in his eyes. Does this brat even crave power? She smiled in amusement. "An interesting child, training will be fun." In the academy secluded within the forest, a stern voice echoed, "Let the mana flow through the meridians newly opened by the awakening ritual." Leo and Karen focused intensely, training under Sabina's guidance. The power of the sea is not to control but to merge with. Karen slowly felt the surging waves within his body. He gradually sensed the hardness of the wave. Each pulse of the wave gathered and released from the heart. Sabina was astonished to see sparks of magic emanate from his body. She furrowed her brows, solemnly assessing around him. Is this the mana of a child who has completed the awakening ritual? She turned to Leo, who was focused on cultivating, and marveled. The one taught the Blue Sea Dominion technique 2 years ago is also beginning to aim for the 2-star rank. Sabina stared, unable to help but doubt. Is Karen carving his mana meridians on his own even though I have not taught the boy how? Karen sensed changes within his body. It feels like my body is being torn apart. Sabina looked at him, full of doubt. Is it refining itself? Could his body be starting to feel the pressure? Lost in thought, she noticed something. He even knows how to adjust the rhythm. Leo, exhausted, collapsed hard onto the floor, startling Sabina. She immediately caught him, mildly scolding. I told you not to force your mana circulation. Sabina blamed herself. I focused too much on Karen and forgot Leo is just a child. She sank into reflection. That is why adults like me are here, to keep them from harming their bodies. Behind her Karen saw this and muttered in exasperation, you're really hopeless. Sabina glanced at him, quietly assessing, this child knows his limits and stops training on his own to avoid overexertion. She looked at him seriously, continuing her evaluation, at this age he still keeps his composure and self-control despite the desire to grow stronger. Looking at his indifferent face, Sabina's eyes cooled. Brother, this child doesn't need a lighthouse. She stepped forward, stood before him, and called out firmly, Karen. Sabina's face turned solemn. She made a pledge, for 3 years, I will ensure your safety. To his surprise, Sabina ordered, for 3 years, focus on building the strength to protect yourself. Karen, dazed, instinctively agreed, yes, Miss Sabina. The group trained earnestly on the practice field. Zeres watched their fighting forms and barked in anger, don't be sloppy, swing as if you're in a real fight. He suddenly noticed a group entering the field. Leo and Karen walked in slowly. Leo hesitantly looked at the sword in Karen's hand and asked, are you planning to use that sword for training? Karen, puzzled by the question, asked back, is there a problem? Karen snapped angrily, hissing that everyone said it had a fierce aura so he kept it in Grandpa's sword sheath. Leo, not satisfied, seeing him angry quickly waved his hand, it's not that I don't like it. Zeres stepped forward, cutting off the conversation, welcome you, Leo and Karen. Karen stared at the tall man in a daze. This is Zeres. Noticing the confusion he explained, I will be responsible for Karen's sword training. His face solemn, he continued to introduce himself, I am commander of the Sea Wolf Knights, Zeres, just call me Sir Zeres. Karen, astonished and pleased, greeted, very glad to meet Sir Zeres, from appearance alone one can tell he's at the 8-star level. Zeres stared candidly, I will not call you Duke's grandson, only when recognized by the Sea Wolf Knights and the Blue Pack. Karen, not angry, shrugged slightly, actually that makes me comfortable, I'm not used to the title Duke's grandson. His tone even, I also understand the Reston family tradition, you must earn the Blue Pack's respect through skill. Zeres was surprised by his nonchalant attitude, interesting reaction, most show displeasure. He turned to Leo, making him puzzled, young Master Leo was no exception. Zeres stared, pondering, has a wise air already emerged? Karen's face spread a fierce smile, causing Leo and Zeres to suddenly feel fear. Seeing Zeres' terrified look, Karen thought to himself, finally everyone will bow before me. The three stood motionless in the wide training yard, each with their own thoughts, isn't there anyone worse than this? 3 years later, at the Blue Sea Fortress, a man gently savored a glass of wine. Sabina held her glass, constantly exclaiming, indeed my brother's wine is still the best. Halo, seeing her demeanor, a little helpless, whispered, isn't it time you stopped stealing my wine? Sabina, annoyed, glared at him sulkily, how can you speak so coldly? I trained your nephews for 3 years only because you asked. Halo fell into thought, his face full of contemplation, has it really been 3 years? He suddenly probed, after all this time, what is your impression of him? Sabina, surprised, my impression. Her voice rang out as an affirmation throughout the room, that brat really is a monster. Halo sipped his wine, hesitating and puzzled, you comfortably call my grandson a monster. The guard beside him also felt awkward, the word genius would even insult him. Halo turned to Zeres, bluntly asking, Zeres, serious, after 3 years observing Karen, I must say I agree with Miss Sabina. His analytical voice rose steadily, physique, innate talent, training attitude, determination and even courage, everything is excellent. Zeres solemnly affirmed, this boy surpasses the great young master rumored to be a genius. Halo's face darkened and chilled, you mean Tail's eldest son, Hugo. He looked straight at Zeres, awaiting confirmation, a talent even greater than Hugo, who is considered #1 in the nation. Zeres confirmed, Sabina beamed and interjected, if not managed well, the family will be in uproar, my dear brother. Halo, puzzled, what do you mean? Sabina dropped the teasing look and, looking at him seriously, asked, consider how he will affect the succession, what will your sons think of the boy? Halo poured wine into the empty glass, weighing it, are you saying my sons will be a threat to the boy? For now everything is under control, but when this news spreads across the empire who knows? Sabina, puzzled and slightly angry, probed, isn't it obvious? This will affect the line of succession and what happens afterward. Halo pondered, his face fearsome enough to make Sabina freeze. She sighed, her voice softened, now the stone covenant has been broken, is our family about to end? The number of northern sea monsters crossing the border has also suddenly surged. As Sabina finished speaking, Halo snapped in anger, nonsense. Halo looked at her seriously and retorted, the one who breaks the stone will recreate a new stone, just like our ancestors. Sabina smiled meaningfully, I've never heard that, is it a prophecy passed down to the eldest branch? Halo did not object and explained, it means the time of the covenant is drawing near. Sabina's eyes flashed, she looked Halo straight in the eye. Our adorable youngest is about to shoulder many responsibilities. She asked further, so when will you tell him? Halo pondered and replied, when the time comes. Is father doing all right? First, sorry I couldn't visit home, training kept me busy, the weather's turned colder recently and father is sensitive to the cold, remember to dress warmly. Lately I've mastered the sea spirit art of the 4 spirits and the 4th method of the blue wolf sword technique. I'm also trying to get along with the family as you advised, especially brother Leo. I take good care of him. By the way, I have a request, I'm out of spending money, could father send a little more? Pale read the letter and laughed indulgently. He gently set the letter down, exclaiming happily, Heinrich, do you know how worried I was 3 years ago when he was at the Blue Sea Fortress? Pale's voice rang with joy. How is it? He adapted incredibly fast. Heinrich looked at him delighted and felt glad too, remarking that since the young master arrived the Blue Sea Fortress hasn't had a quiet day. Pale sighed thoughtfully, I've said many times that standing out too much isn't good. Heinrich comforted him, but gold will shine wherever it is. He said seriously, but perhaps things are about to change, they can no longer keep Karen's information confined to the city. Pale asked gravely, do you mean the boy can take missions now? Heinrich explained, yes, he must undertake missions as a member of the Blue Wolves. Pale expressed concern, I'm worried my 2 elder sons won't be pleased to see his influence at the Blue Sea Fortress grow. Heinrich smiled faintly, I can only say one thing about that. He affirmed that Miss Sabina always cares deeply for Karen. Hale breathed a sigh of relief, right, she's there with him. He smiled softly, I've written about it in letters for 3 years, but having you confirm it again makes me much more at ease. Heinrich laughed, Miss Sabina always cares for him, doesn't she? Hale sighed helplessly, perhaps the monthly allowance I send helps a bit. Heinrich joked, seeing you joke like that must make you feel much more at ease. Pale asked with a dark face, but she hasn't left the Blue Sea Fortress yet. Heinrich noticed Pale's worry and explained, you needn't worry about that. Seeing Pale puzzled, Heinrich explained that Karen has built such strong ties with the Wolf Knights at the Blue Sea Fortress that the Knights even gave him a special title, though somewhat disrespectful. Pale was at a loss for words, I've heard that too, the little mad dog of the Blue Sea Fortress, isn't that so? On the fortress, the training battles were fierce. Karen unleashed a heavy slash that shattered the opponent's wooden sword. Hans held the wooden sword helplessly. Karen, stop, I lost. Karen gazed at the broken sword thoughtfully and asked, Hans, why did you let me strike just because your blade angle slipped? Karen asked coldly, wouldn't you know that Blue Wolf sword technique becomes meaningless if you hold back against the opponent, you must counterattack forcefully, why were you so weak? Hans, puzzled, explained, I thought only you would dare call me weak. Karen scolded, your muscles are like a deflating balloon. Hans became even more bewildered, I've never heard anyone say that. He pointed at himself and smiled confidently, I only speak the truth others dare not say. Hans put on a show, explaining, even without magic I'd still lose to you, last year it wasn't this bad. Hans whispered, you're about to be sent on that mission. Karen, surprised, where did you hear that? Hans hesitated, only that Zaraz will decide the deployment timing in place of the Lord who is in the capital. Hans, worried, maybe to the provisioning depot in the Western Duchy, monsters have been appearing a lot recently. Karen shouted excitedly across the training yard, cousin, we're about to go on a mission. Leo training lost focus when hearing him, the instructor admonished, I don't want you to go on a mission with him, Lord Leo is practicing about, concentrate. Leo looked at the teacher seriously but thought to himself, perhaps father and mother will be very pleased if I excel on the mission. In the study, Pale looked at Heinrich solemnly, I didn't call you here because of Karen's letter. Heinrich, surprised, what's the matter? Pale handed over a pouch, take a look at this. Heinrich examined the pouch, Pale explained, the family inspector found it in a shipment from the barony of Bellis. Heinrich checked, stunned. Pale, stern and cold, it's drugs, can you investigate the barony of Bellis from the Blue Sea Fortress? Heinrich fell silent, pondering, staring intently at the item in his hand. The night was quiet, the train docked. A man disembarked, his tone full of appraisal. Looking at the towers in the dark, he whispered, so this is the Blue Sea Fortress. The night sky was still, the full moon brightly shining down on the rooftops below. Around the vast castle, guards patrolled with torches. A figure lurked behind a wall, silently watching the outside. Karen shook the bottle in his hand, marveling at Zaraz's collection, which always excited him. He laughed loudly and walked off happily, despite having a child's body. how could he forget the taste of wine? Karen suddenly stopped when he saw two strangers. Who are they? Strange faces. They were talking when he appeared abruptly. Is the Duke really away? This is urgent. Yes, he has gone to the capital to petition His Majesty. Currently matters are being handled by the commander of the knights. Both paused and turned to look at him. Ah, young master, why are you here at this hour? This is Lord Rohan, the second son of Baron Bellis. He says he has urgent matters to report to the Blue Sea Fortress, the youngest nephew, so it must be the son of the third duke who was struck from the succession list. I think I vaguely heard that he awakened magic and is being trained at the main house, named Karen Reston. It's an honor to meet you, I'm Rohan Bellis. But you turn to the companion, go on, tell me, though perhaps this should be reported to the commander of the knights instead. Isn't anyone going to mention that a kid is holding a bottle of wine? Karen replied calmly, leaving Rohan stunned. An envoy would have sufficed for the injury, but he came all this way, it must be urgent, then a noble should personally handle it. The other bowed and answered, understood, I will report privately to Commander Zeres. Very well. This kid is not an ordinary noble, at such a young age he already has political judgment, yet that bottle of wine keeps nagging at me. Karen looked at Rohan and asked, shall we go? Rohan worriedly thought to himself, have the Restons always been like this, so young and already drinking? Under the starry night, light spilled through the window slits. In the room the two were talking. The bandits are occupying the mountains in the eastern part of your domain, right? Yes, that's correct. Karen shook the wine bottle and asked further, and since they appeared the drugs began to spread, villagers were kidnapped and sold into slavery. Yes, it's embarrassing to say, but our Bellis domain has always been poor, the terrain is rugged, and there are no notable specialties. For a whole year we didn't even have a decent troop, so we couldn't cope. My father couldn't endure it any longer, so he took the little force we had to attack. But we suffered heavy losses. Father was severely wounded and is now bedridden. Could it all be my fault, my incompetence causing father and the people to suffer? He suddenly set the bottle on the table, startling Rohan. Karen, furious, gritted his teeth. Those bastards deserve to be torn to pieces. He softened his tone, but still saw some inconsistencies. I mean, how could a ragtag band of bandits stand against a regular army? Rohan held his hands up in reply, I'm not certain, but I suspect they're deserters from the war in the southern kingdom. Deserters from the war in the southern kingdom. Karen pondered for a moment. So that's it. After the mad emperor was deposed, the imperial army was reduced, most forces were sent south for the war, leaving no strength to watch the north. Security gaps were bound to appear. He draped his arm over the chair and continued, deserters becoming bandits seems the most plausible explanation, indeed. Karen held the bottle of wine and cheerfully said, you must be in a terrible mood, want a glass? Without waiting for Rohan to reply, he poured wine into the glass on the table. You may not know, but the Bellis domain borders my father's land, so this isn't something I can ignore. If possible I would personally like to help. Rohan took the glass, thinking inwardly, thanks for the thought. Should I drink something a kid handed me? Karen suddenly continued, startling Rohan, oh by the way, I nicked this bottle from Commander Zeres's collection, so let's keep it between us. Wait, Zeres, the commander of the famed Blue Wolf Knights. The door swung open abruptly. I thought our agreement was you wouldn't touch my wine anymore. Rohan panicked, jumped up to explain, sorry sir, I didn't mean any disrespect, you're a young baron, how could I know about this? Never mind. I heard the bandits have been causing you considerable trouble. Rohan replied awkwardly, yes, that's right. That's why I came to request the Blue Wolf Knights personally intervene. He was about to say more when Karen laughed, hee. Zeres snatched the glass from his hand. I told you, your age isn't right for drinking. Ah, my wine. Zeres turned to Rohan, sorry you had to witness such an ugly scene. Rohan waved his hand, it's fine sir. Zeres said seriously, you've come to the right place. The Azure Sea Fortress won't ignore an ally in trouble. Hearing that, Rohan felt reassured. We have prepared troops to send to the Bellis domain, don't worry too much. Rohan gratefully thanked him, thank you sir, that's such good news, I finally have good news to tell the people. Karen suddenly spoke up, Lord Zeres, I'll go too. Zeres immediately refused, absolutely not, the enemy is trained. Rohan widened his eyes thinking, what, that kid really wants to go along, though training at the main hall. He looks only 12 or 13. Zeres tensed, I acknowledge your progress, reaching 4th star and mastering the 4th technique of the Blue Wolf Sword method in 3 years, but real combat is entirely different. He closed his eyes to feign worry, sheltering you forever won't help, I'd rather send you west, facing a known danger is better than unknown threats. I won't let you risk facing an enemy of unknown strength or position. Karen was excited, really. He beamed, so what if I make an offer you can't refuse? He laughed holding his stomach, making the two of them puzzle. Leo asked incredulously, why me? He patted Leo's shoulder cheerfully, come on cousin, cheer up, after all this is our first mission together. Zeres looked at them thinking he'd been fooled. Karen pulled Sabina in, she crossed her arms exclaiming, ah the kids are so adorable. Zeres looked at Sabina, wait, maybe this is good. They'll have a reliable guardian with them. Sabina looked at the two, saying, I remember being this eager on my first mission. Zeres glanced back to see Leo agree to go. With this condition he must be satisfied with his training progress. Rohan observed the four, Lady Sabina, the legendary white wolf. But no matter how strong she is, they're still just two children. Is this okay? Karen was eager, I'm really looking forward to this trip. If the Duke's grandson suffers harm my whole family will be held responsible. If they get seriously injured then. Zeres stepped forward to reassure, don't worry, what you fear won't happen. Rohan turned back, Commander Zeres. He soothed Rohan explaining, with Lady Sabina accompanying the two young masters they won't be in any danger, yes. Oh about that, Sabina spoke up making Rohan and Leo blush. Unless the kids are in mortal danger, otherwise I will not intervene. Zeres objected, I know the young lady trusts their growth, but Sabina cut in, you know it's not just that, right Zeres, indeed your dear one is always so bold. She smiled and added, there is a reason I cannot act directly. Zeres closed his eyes in agreement, leaving Rohan stunned. Yes, I understand if that is truly your intention. Sabina looked at everyone and asked, is it time already? Seeing Leo fearful she sighed and said, it's understandable that Leo feels anxious. Leo looked at Sabina puzzled, but she smiled kindly to explain and reassure. Consider this an opportunity to prove how hard you've worked these past 3 years, an opportunity to be recognized as an official member of the Blue Wolves. Leo repeated her words, a member of the Blue Wolves. Leo suddenly calmed, which made Karen glance over in surprise. Yes. He teased, cousin, do you always need someone to kick you in the ass before you go? Shut up. You okay? Karen smiled and walked ahead. Alright then, where's our place? Leo followed behind thinking, I knew it. His expression serious, I've always known the day would come when I'd have to prove myself. A loud sound rang out, the magic ship from the Azure Sea Fortress to the Bellis domain is about to depart. The ship began to roll, leaving the massive castle. I didn't expect that day to come so soon. The convoy sped past dense rows of green trees. Sabina folded her arms and said, a top-secret mission. She continued, actually my sneaking into the Azure Sea Fortress was already a secret, so I couldn't just show my face. If I did the bandits would vanish without a trace. You wouldn't want that either, right? Rohan avoided her gaze. No, White Wolf. He still looked at the two worried, but is it okay to entrust everything to these two kids? One looks blank as if he knows nothing of worry. Isn't this supposed to be his first mission? Rohan glanced at Leo, the other was tense as a drawn bow. Leo rested his head against the window with a sullen face. The mother scolded, Leo, I really don't understand what you have in that head of yours. Why are you entangled with that brat Karen? Have you forgotten what happened 3 years ago? Remember this well, he's not your friend but your enemy. 3 years ago he humiliated you and smeared your father's honor, and yet you still laugh and talk to him like nothing happened. Is your brain just for decoration? Say one word back if you dare, truly a man without ambition. Leo broke into a cold sweat replying, Mother, I'm sorry but there's no rivalry between me and Karen. What? Leo grew bolder, even Hugo, the famed prodigy, only reached 3rd star at 14, yet Karen reached 4th star at 13, compared to him I at 15 have only just crawled to 3rd star this year. Don't you see how wide the gap is? Karen may be a target to strive for, but as a rival to him I have no chance. Leo's mother glanced at him. Leo, you must throw away that inferiority complex at once. This is not an inferiority complex. Karen's existence is motivation for me to strive harder, so I can confidently walk on my own 2 feet. She closed her eyes and sighed. Leo, you really see the tree but not the forest. A voice pulled Leo back to reality. Leo Reston. Yes ma'am, is it so hard to shake off the tension? Leo stammered, yes that's right. Sabina said, well, this is your first mission after all, so it's natural to be nervous. She continued, which made Leo freeze, but with that head of yours, can you actually bring yourself to harm someone else? Karen vaguely woke from the noise, but you're overthinking it, you don't need to doubt yourself. I'm the one who knows best how much sweat and effort you've put in these 3 years. After all I'm the one who trained you, aren't I? Leo relaxed and smiled, yes master, That sounds nice to hear. A loudspeaker announced. Sabina stood and left her seat. This train will reach Baron Bellis's domain in 20 minutes. On this mission let's call each other master and disciple. Yes master, Rohan asked the White Wolf. Where are you going? Sabina opened the window. If I show up at the Baron's station the news will spread immediately. I'm leaving first, Rohan panicked. But White Wolf, the train is still moving. Sabina climbed out causing everyone to panic. Young Baron, from now on call me Lady Sabina. What? No but. Karen looked on calmly. See, master is as wild as ever. Before leaving Sabina said, my nephews will be circling nearby so don't worry too much, no one will blame you, Lady Sabina. She leapt out, leaving the two staring in astonishment. Rohan yelled in panic, Lady Sabina. Karen laughed heartily, both of them drenched in sweat. After all why are the Restons all so crazy? The Baron sat on the bed covering his mouth as he coughed repeatedly. Cough cough, my health is poor. Please forgive me for having to sit while receiving you gentlemen. Karen replied, please don't worry, how is your wound? The Baron propped himself up with his cane. They said I passed the critical stage. Thank you for your concern. Do you still remember, young Master Karen, I met you and your father 10 years ago. You've grown exceptionally. Lord Pale must be proud. Karen bashfully scratched his neck. Please speak freely, I'm not used to formalities, they just make me uncomfortable. The Baron asked, if it truly makes you uncomfortable, may I call you young Master Karen? Karen cheerfully, that would make me much more comfortable, my lord. He continued, having received your first mission you must have reached 4th star of the Zihi school at a very young age. Karen replied, yes, my cousin Leo is still stuck at 3rd star, strangely not a fighter yet claiming initiative. The Baron laughed haha, anyway the head of the house must hold you in high regard to send you here. And precisely because of that I feel uneasy entrusting such a dangerous mission to two promising young men. Karen answered, I understand your concern, but if we fail won't it tarnish the Blue Wolf's pride? We have no intention of failing. He turned to ask Leo, causing him to stare blankly. Right cousin, Leo replied, yes, we will definitely complete the mission. The Baron coughed hoarsely holding his chest. Thank you for saying that. Rohan worried, father, are you alright? Karen chose his words, it seems the Baron needs rest, we should take our leave, then I'll be counting on you. The guide was already waiting, just follow him, yes. Amidst the majestic snowy mountains, Karen asked Leo, what's wrong, already worn out so soon? Leo made Karen stop short, no, but can we trust that man who calls himself an herb master? Leo voiced his concern, even if that man is a guide familiar with the terrain sent by the young Baron, there's no guarantee he's not working for the bandits. Karen smiled teasingly, so you finally decided to use your brain. You're right, he's probably one of the robbers. Leo was a bit surprised. What, how did you know? Karen explained seriously, based on the conversation between me and the Lord when we first arrived at the station. Leo puzzled, what conversation? Recalling at the station, Rohan asked, how do you plan to hunt down the bandits' lair? Karen stammered, well we have to use a traitor inside the domain. Karen put a hand on his hip and smirked, using a traitor, sir that's indeed a brilliant method. Back in the present Leo asked, roughly like that, so why didn't you tell me? Karen answered making Leo pause, because you've been tense all day, haven't you, about that matter. Unexpectedly the Lord intentionally planted a traitor with us, he's quite crafty, keeping a traitor close to use him as a weapon against his comrades. Leo curled his lip, exactly. The fact that he's been roaming beyond the law all this time says it all. That also means they're in a desperate situation, that's why we're the bait now. Noble heirs pass through the Baron's domain to reach the outskirts, a perfect scenario isn't it? If they capture us, they'll demand a huge ransom. Karen moved forward warning Leo, it seems they're about to set a trap. A group of men suddenly appeared. A burly man with a fierce face, give the bag to Sven. Well done Sven, since he's my kin I added a little extra. Thanks. One of them pointed at the two, boss, these spoiled sons don't look like the obedient type. Karen positioned himself in front of Leo, pests like you. His eyes lit up with killing intent, dare traffic contraband in my father's domain. Karen lunged, swinging his sword repeatedly at the men, blood sprayed everywhere leaving Leo stunned. Sven fell hard onto the icy snow, tears streaming, monster. Leo gaped watching Karen fight. His face darkened. Karen really is a monster. One man on the outskirts was hit by splattered blood. He panicked and said to his companion, boss, I don't think these are small fry, maybe we should retreat and report to the main unit. Damn. He grew more savage after the suggestion, I'd never lose to a milk-mouthed brat, Captain. He rushed at Karen, shouting, let me teach you a lesson, brat. He leapt up, brandishing two weapons, murderous intent filling his body. Karen remained unshaken, gently countered a blow that sent the man flying back, noisy. Karen's voice threatening, a vertical slash from the crown down through his body. The captain collapsed on the white snow, blood spouting and staining the ground red. Leo stared at the sword, perplexed. I don't even know when I drew my blade. Karen lightly sheathed his sword and said, Tisk, you've dirted all my clothes. He slid the sword into its scabbard. Leo showed a worried look. Not only the boy himself but the sword chi from his blade seemed to devour everything. He gripped his throat and panted painfully, not just cut, it felt like his throat could be severed at any moment. Spare our lives, the last man hopped up pleading, we surrender. Karen rested his sword on his shoulder with a smug face. Really, what's your name? He stammered answering, ah yes, my name is Ura. Karen's eyes flashed bright, his face darkened. All right Ura, do you have a rope? He replied decisively, yes I do. Karen's words left Leo stunned. Hand it over. Ah yes. He used the rope Ura gave to bind his hands. Leo was tied up like Karen. Leo, do we really need to go this far? Tying them up is one thing, but is it necessary to make this guy carry all our weapons? He explained for Leo to understand. I told you, if we're the bait luring them to their den we have to act the part. If we're strong and armed who would believe we were kidnapped? The two walked behind discussing. Ura led the way swallowing nervously. Only then will the story of our capture and escort seem believable, otherwise how could a guy like him drag both of us? Absurd. Even though we're just kids, Karen called out suddenly making him start, so on the way gather a bit more information from him. Ura, yes. He asked, you're deserters right? Ura quickly answered, ah yes, we used to belong to the 1st Battalion of the 93rd Regiment of the 3rd Infantry Division of the Kingdom of CEAs. He said sternly, the Kingdom of CEAs must be from the Southern Front. Karen continued asking, what about numbers, how many in total? Ura provided full details, including a mage and 2 escort knights. In total we have 130, he repeated the question, a mage, yes. After answering, Ura fearfully turned his face away. Wow, 130 deserters, yes, damn, wrong target, thought they were just 2 pampered noble brats. He drifted into thought not hearing him, his eyes flashed with blue magic. A mage, who said that? They must be descendants of the Reston House, the heart of the Oria's empire. Leo asked him, but even as deserters what brought you all the way up to the north? Ah about that. Ura trembled answering, the commander said he'd help us get enough money to live comfortably for life. Karen immediately suspected, a lowly infantry commander backed by a mage, if the goal is money why would they raid the poor barren domain of Baron Bellis? Ura suddenly blurted, something's not right here. He halted saying, we're almost there young masters. Karen remained calm while Leo was tense, let's just go see for ourselves and it'll be clear. The 3 arrived at the base, a few men stood guard. A voice echoed from the fortress, what's this Ura, did you really capture a hostage? Shut up. 2 men above looked down asking, wait, where are the others, why are you the only one back, and what's with that pile of weapons on your back? Ura tilted his head calmly replying, what else, I confiscated them from those kids, now this is my solo achievement, clear off. The others are chasing after the guards who ran off from those kids. Now hurry and open the gate, one shouted, open the main gate, how hasty. Ura ignored the taunts and stepped in, eager thinking he'd be praised by the captain. The gate guard said wearily, wouldn't it be better if the one who brought the hostage back had come sooner? Ura told him to be quiet, shut up. Karen walked behind observing thinking to himself, this robber is really easy to bully. What is that flow of power I sense? Ura's body kept sweating profusely. For some reason I've been getting chills this whole time, Guillotine reacted. Leo called worriedly. Karen looked at the dead crow pinned to the wooden post. They hang the sacrificial items with nowhere to hide. A magic circle appeared in the middle of the wide yard. A formation suddenly rose on the ground before the 3 of them. A moan echoed from within, my sword cut through the bindings. Karen exclaimed dazed. He looked at Leo, cousin draw your sword. Leo surprised, what? Karen gripped guillotine, you'll need it soon. Leo still didn't understand, what do you mean? From the formation a cluster of dry bones rose up. Ura gasped a cold breath. 13 skeletons fully armed with swords and shields stood before the 3. Someone shouted, the hostage put his own head into a snare, heaven truly favors us. From above a line of archers took position, a man stood arrogantly in the middle, welcome to my mountain camp. He raised his head disdainfully looking down, you pampered noble brats. Karen thought to himself, I don't see that black mage anywhere, he's surely hiding somewhere chanting, still unpredictable. Karen lifted guillotine to Ura's throat. If you make a move I'll cut this man's throat, how's that? Ura flinched. Why, yes young master. Leo felt humiliated. What, holding the hostage by the neck, where has noble honor gone? The other man looked down silently, slightly surprised by the scene. Nobles taking hostages, aren't you the ones who value honor over life? Karen curled his lip, pressed guillotine to Ura's throat. So what? Not allowed. Ura trembled. The man forced a laugh. You're amusing, but you're wrong. A worthless hostage means nothing. That one is completely useless. Do whatever you want with him. Karen snorted and sheathed his sword. Completely worthless. Ura dropped his shoulders and sighed in relief. Sorry sir. Leo was on guard. We are outnumbered. Do you have a plan? Karen smirked. Of course. He confidently said, we just need to take down that commander. Blue mana emitted from his eyes. The man flinched. Blue mana, impossible. Karen turned to Leo. Cousin, I'll leave the rest to you. Leo dazed. What did you say? Mana erupted around Karen. He gripped guillotine. Let me handle the commander myself. He lunged as mana swirled in the air toward the man. Leo shouted Karen. A skeleton charged and swung an axe down. Leo quickly blocked. Karen, what the hell are you thinking? Leo worried. How can I fight all these soldiers alone? The commander shouted. Fire volleys. Karen laughed mockingly. Too late. The Halesword technique was unleashed. The archer below had his hand cut off. Using the force, Karen leaped into the sky. The leader shouted. You brat. Karen disdainfully slashed down. Such a nuisance. In the blink of an eye the leader's right hand was severed. He knelt down screaming in pain. Karen landed before him and stepped forward. If you're going to attack do it a bit quicker. He groaned. Bastard. His eyes full of grievance. Clearly the Blue Sea Fortress doesn't have spare troops to intervene in another domain. Karen remembered. Oh that matter. This baron's domain sits right next to my father's. Karen reassured. Don't worry. I won't kill you. I'll just drag you back to the Blue Sea Fortress. He looked down in admiration. Not bad, cousin. Below Leo was single-handedly handling a pile of skeletons. He told himself, that's right, worthy of the sea swords, just use your strength to crush them. The man threatened, do you really think you'll leave here safely? Karen stared at him, what's your name? He sweat, Michael Knox. Karen drove guillotine into Michael's leg. He screamed in pain. The archers above went pale and trembled. Karen wore a manic smile. Order your men to drop their weapons. He shouted, drop your weapons, quickly. Karen sheathed his sword. Good, I like that. Michael looked at him full of murderous intent. Who would have thought we'd lose to a pair of kids? But when they arrive even you won't be able to resist, even if you're of the Reston house. Karen looked down. Seems you still have backing, huh? He looked at Leo. Don't tell me you're counting on that black mage. He sneered. Do you really think our house would send only 2 children? Leo wiped sweat after defeating the skeletons. The formation vanished. An earth-shattering explosion rang from behind. Karen said, of course they'd have guards right. The outer fence had been blown wide open. Anyway thanks to you I wasted time and let the black mage escape. A woman's figure entered holding someone's head. It was Sabina. She stepped in silently. Leo was delighted. Ah master, Ura gaped. Oh the head of the black mage. Sabina coldly. Karen Reston, Leo Reston. She assessed, you missed the most important evidence, the mission is a failure. Karen clicked his tongue and kicked Michael down. He fell flat. Karen followed, but master likes this style doesn't she? Sabina helplessly said, charging headlong into the tiger's den, just like your father. She threw down the black mage's head, for that I'll mark it for you, very fitting of the Reston house. She continued, but staging a sudden hostage kidnapping will cost you points. Karen slid guillotine into its sheath. Michael trembled before the black mage's head. Sabina queried suspiciously, why did you stage a hostage kidnapping? Karen explained, I wanted to strike their blind spot. Who'd expect nobles to kidnap a hostage? Sabina accepted, on that point I agree. She sighed, Karen, I've never seen anyone like you, truly a madman. Karen smiled, thank you master. Michael trembled, these lunatics, are they really nobles? Sabina ordered, return to Lord Bellus's castle, I have many questions to ask. Karen obeyed, yes master. Michael terrified, those Reston kids really are lunatics. A man ran to the gate shouting loudly, in a hoarse voice, Isabel, the boy replied, father. The boy answered, wow, you two hug so tightly. The father sobbed, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. The boy trembled, father I was so scared. Standing outside Karen looked at Ura with deep gloom. Feel guilty now, he forced out, well. Karen shoved Ura's shoulder, feeling guilty this early? Being thrown into the Baron's prison like your companions might be a bargain. He flinched. What? He explained, you'll have to go to the Blue Sea Fortress along with your big boss. Ura panicked. What? Sabina crossed her arms and stepped forward. Is it okay that Karen didn't tie him up? He obediently replied, yes, for now it's fine. After all, we need people to carry that guy to the Blue Sea Fortress. But don't let your guard down, understand? He hurriedly answered, yes. The earlier father asked, pity him, will he also be punished? Karen replied, yes, technically he's still a bandit. The man hesitated, may I speak frankly? He really did take good care of us while imprisoned, even secretly bringing medicine to the sick. Isabel agreed, he gave his food to others who were hungry. Please show him mercy, Sabina asked, what do you think? Karen decided, for now consider leniency. After all, he led us to their stronghold. Ura moved, I pledge lifelong loyalty to you, young master. Karen annoyed, I told you not to let your guard down. Leo called down from upstairs, Karen, you should take a look at this. He was surprised, curiosity clear on his face. He stepped up to inspect. What's going on? Leo pointed. Look. He stepped in, staring bewildered at the box of blue light. His eyes showed amazement and caution. These are mana stones. In the box are integrated black crystal chunks. Then the bandits were led away. The villagers cursed. Serves you right, you filthy thieves. Leo curiously asked, Karen, the Lord will hold a feast for us, won't he? Karen, did you hear that? Karen annoyed, now you're lost in thought. Just as I thought, there's a reason such a large bandit group was hiding in the remote mountains of Baron Bellis's domain. The Baron likely doesn't even know there's a mana stone mine in his lands. I don't know the quality of the stone yet, but the mere existence of a mine could bring enormous profit. Leo saw Karen's uneasy expression, you're scheming something again. Sabina spoke up, the Lord is coming to greet us. Rohan welcomed warmly from afar, welcome everyone. Someone ordered the prisoners locked in the dungeon. Sabina said, my lord, we'll take that man, the leader of the bandits. You don't object? He agreed, yes of course. Milady, I have a request. Sabina indifferent, I'm here only as guardian, speak with my pupil. Rohan looked at Karen and Leo, then I've prepared a small feast, shall we eat and talk? Karen declined, sorry but we must go to the Blue Sea Fortress immediately, speak now. Rohan surprised, is that so? Actually it's about the reward payment for the mission. Our domain currently can't afford to pay the commission to the Blue Sea Fortress, so I'd like to request a postponement of payment. Karen's swagger made Leo roll his eyes. He said calmly, I've been wondering why the bandits chose to base themselves in Baron Bellis's domain. Rohan asked, what do you mean? Karen slowly, just think about it. Baron Bellis's domain is a remote area with no local specialties. It's literally a godforsaken village, right? Rohan restrained himself. Hold it in. Hold it in. He continued, sure enough what they were after was something else. Rohan suspicious, you mean? Karen produced mana stones. Yes, so, mana stones, do you know about this? Rohan panicked, not at all, I had no idea there was a mana stone mine in my domain. He beamed, therefore I want to make a proposal. Rohan asked, a proposal? Karen suggested, cooperate with the Blue Sea Fortress to develop the mine. On the condition that the Blue Sea Fortress provides initial capital and security forces. Rohan thought in surprise, does this kid even understand what he's saying? Not to mention development costs, just the expense of storage facilities and maintaining guards is unforgiving. Having a house like Rest and hold a stake in our mine alone could bring great benefit. Maybe he calculated that we'd consider all of this, but who gave this kid the nerve to negotiate such a major matter himself? Karen persisted, first I must report this, but if the project is approved, the Sea Wolf Knights could garrison here, that would boost the economy and solve the domain's defense problems in an instant. What do you think? Rohan sighed, so how much of the mine does the Duke want? Karen smiled, that's something you should discuss with my father, after all a child like me isn't qualified to talk business details. Rohan nodded, I understand, I'll discuss it with my father. He politely, yes, I'll contact you soon. Sabina stood by silently witnessing, sighing thoughtfully. The full moon shone, a voice rang out, Master. Karen boldly, allow me to ask why at the bandits' lair you said things could get complicated. She leisurely, that matter, it's because of this one. Leo looked at Sabina lifting the bag and asked, do you mean the black mage you defeated? She explained, this guy isn't just some petty black mage, you don't understand. What do you mean, Master? Sabina explained, he's Ted Dalaharda, a level 2 wanted criminal in the Empire and a 6th circle black mage. Karen started, a level 2 wanted criminal. She looked at him, indeed, a level 2 fugitive running rampant in Imperial territory along with deserters from the Southern Kingdom, yet you and Leo were busy dealing with trivial brats and missed such an important matter, right? Besides, people only grow stronger by fighting powerful opponents. If you had taken down the Black Mage first, you wouldn't have wasted time on those brats. That's why I consider this mission a failure, remember this. Karen sadly, yes master. Leo felt slighted. Why do I feel sidelined like this? Suddenly he was called, and Leo. He stunnedly turned back, yes master. Sabina praised, you did better than I expected, this was your first time facing spirits, right? You should have more confidence. She advised Leo to stand straight, yes. At the Blue Sea Fortress, a report rang out, the Lord has returned. Heinrich respectfully greeted the master. Halo asked, is there anything unusual? He reported, the knights deployed to the west have returned. The young masters Leo and Karen are currently returning from a mission in Baron Bellis's domain along with Miss Sabina. Halo was pleased, I understand. Suddenly someone ran in panicked. Lord Halo said coldly, what's all this noise? A subordinate presented, this is a letter from the palace. Halo froze, a letter from the palace. His Majesty said nothing before I left the capital. He opened the letter, eyes losing composure, he exclaimed, this is. Elsewhere, the train sped along at high speed. Halo worried, did His Majesty summon Karen to the capital in person? Karen sat on the train, propping his arm and looking out the window. The night was dark at the station, the train rolled. Ura carried the weak man who had just been beaten on his shoulder. Ura spoke, is this the Blue Sea Fortress? The leader cut in, hey, don't tell me you believe what that brat said. You're going to prison too, listen carefully, if you want to live, we must wait until they're off guard and strike back. Ura angrily punched and shouted, shut up. Do you think I'll listen to someone who calls me useless and deserving of punishment? Leo heard the quarrel and wondered, what's wrong with him? Pale stepped up from behind and said, it's as noisy around you as ever. Karen and Pale put arms around each other and laughed, quite a strange fellow, are you well? Sabina replied, SOSO Pale, it seems your brother is calling you. Pale stood up, probably because of the trouble this brat caused in Baron Bellis's domain. Sabina teased, what a headache. You say that but you look proud. Leo bowed politely, how have you been these days? Pale gently, I heard Leo did very well in the Duke's domain, the news even reached my ears. Surely my brother has heard about it too, he'll be delighted. Leo scratched his head embarrassed at the praise, yes. Pale tactfully, you all must be tired, let's go upstairs. Pale and Sabina paused to talk behind. Sabina said, the political situation in the Empire seems unstable, do you know anything? Pale sighed thoughtfully, powerful houses except ours are quickly forming an alliance centered on the Duchy of Salmon and the Marquisate of Diaz. My father met with various noble houses in the capital to gauge the situation, but it seems he cancelled everything after an unpleasant conversation with His Majesty, the Duchy of Salmon and the Marquisate of Diaz. They were key figures in overthrowing the tyrant and placing the current emperor on the throne. Now they hold the main power in the empire. Sabina pondered. My brother withdrew from the center of power after the tyrant was deposed. He believed that was best for the empire's future, but who expected we'd be treated like this now? She continued, it seems the era of peace is ending. Pale exclaimed, indeed, whether we like it or not, it's time for our house to act. Sabina assessed, perhaps what your son did will benefit us, it gives us a legitimate reason to garrison on another house's territory and expand influence. Your son is quite interesting. He did something beneficial for the family at just the right time. Pale scratched his head, you're too flattering, it's not a big deal, she scoffed, I'm not praising you either. Cut to Zeres, he praised, well done. I've heard of the two young masters' achievements, you defeated a band of deserter raiders. Karen smugly pointed, the one being carried is their leader. Zeres nodded, I see, we'll begin interrogating while he's still gasping, extract everything we can. Hans wondered, by the way, who is carrying the leader of the bandits? He turned and answered, oh that guy. He's also a robber, take him away, Ura urged, my lord. Karen instructed, but he's the informer, show mercy and release him afterwards, I'm hearing about using him as a personal servant. He agreed. Zeres replied, I understand. Karen waved his hand, then let's go inside and rest. Zeres stopped them, your mission isn't over yet. You two need to submit a report. This is to reassess the mission and improve performance in the future. Karen was surprised. Lord Zeres, don't tell me each of us has to write a separate one. Zeres settled it. You two can write it together. Karen delighted. Wonderful, I've done all the heavy work. Cousin, write it. Leo flustered. Wouldn't it be faster if we wrote it together? Karen put his arm around him. Just think about it. once the report is submitted, Uncle will read it after all. Just focus on writing about your great efforts. This is a perfect chance to score points with Uncle. Leo doubted, really, if my name appears too often it will backfire. Zeres sighed helplessly, proceed to imprison them. Hans received the order, yes Captain. Sabina stepped forward and tossed a sack to Zeres, this is the head of a wanted man, deal with it. Zeres took it, surprised. Sabina turned her back and said, also consider the kid's report as mine to finish things quickly. Everyone dispersed. Karen cheered, have fun writing cousin. Leo asked, where are you going? Karen answered, the training room, I've reached 4th star level now, can use it alone. Zeres gave a wry smile, just back from the first mission and heading straight to the training room. How can that be for a 13-year-old boy? He marveled as he watched Karen's brash figure. In the palace a solemn voice rang out, the reason I summoned you all at this late hour is due to information obtained during the hunt. Lately more and more monsters have been appearing around the Blue Sea Fortress. Heinrich nodded, yes my lord. Halo ordered the captains of the knights to be summoned. Zeres reported, I have brought the item you requested my lord. Halo observed, this is a piece of hide taken from a monster that appeared in the western rice fields. At first glance it looks ordinary. Halo unfolded it for everyone to see. He solemnly said, but the dark aura in this piece of hide is far from ordinary. It's the dark magic of the tyrant. At the shocking news Raphale froze with bulging eyes, Tails also turned pale in horror. Pale panicked, the tyrant's father has been dead for a long time. Halo interjected, if his dark magic is present in the monsters then that means. He continued there are two possibilities, either his lingering malice remains in the world, or the tyrant is still alive. Either way my conclusion is that it is connected to what is happening within the empire. However it seems news of what happened in Baron Bellis's domain has reached his majesty. He has summoned you to the capital. Pale was stunned. Halo folded his arms with a tense solemn face, but I cannot send him alone to the palace, I intend to send Leo and the Sea Wolf Knights along. Of course only if the boy agrees to go. Pale was still astonished. Halo said coldly, if he doesn't want to I won't force him. Pale asked, no problem right? Halo instructed, it will be fine, he's still just a child. More importantly, I need to know what the boy was thinking when he made that agreement with young Baron Bellis. Zeres brought Karen in, he saluted, yes my lord. Under the moonlight a cool breeze blew, the air was unusually still. Karen sat practicing magic solemnly, his body absorbing the energy radiating outward. When did you arrive? Zeres crossed his arms and leaned against the wall, I just got here. Karen slowly stood, I heard only family members and you, Zeres, are allowed in this place. But I've never seen you in this training room. There must be something important for you to come all the way here, right? Zeres was silent for a moment after hearing his guess, then spoke. It seems the young master will have to go to the capital soon. Karen's face registered shock as he asked back, the capital. Zeres replied, the head of the house has summoned you to a family meeting, you'll hear more details from him directly. After that the two walked on in silence. Saying nothing more, a servant opened the door to report, young Master Karen has arrived. Halo sat in his chair with his chin on his hand and replied, I heard you completed your first mission excellently. The boy obediently answered, yes grandfather. Halo's gaze darkened with severity, I called you here about the matter in Baron Bellis's domain. You have no right to represent the family in trade matters, so why did you unilaterally make an agreement with the Bellis house? Karen thought to himself, I expected praise but instead got scolded like this. Halo continued, don't you think your arrogant attitude seriously insulted the Bellis family? He replied clearly, no my lord, I simply proposed an agreement with the future Baron of the Bellis house. He voluntarily accepted my proposal and I believed something far more important than ordinary noble protocol was at stake. Halo was surprised, what could be more important than protocol to a noble? Karen's eyes turned cold and resolute as he spoke each word. It was the family's honor. The assertion made everyone in the room turn to look at him. Halo froze at the decisive statement. He looked at Karen, judging silently, in terms of the agreement's value, the boy could have used it to boast of his deeds, but instead he chose to elevate the family's interests and step back. Truly a display of admirable wisdom. Everyone in the room glanced at him, assessing silently. Karen looked back resentfully, the gazes of those two were still full of suspicion. Halo interrupted his thoughts, all right, after all, the agreement you brought back will bring enormous benefits to our house, Pale, you will handle the negotiations. So your father can bask in the glory thanks to his son's deeds, that's not so bad, Pale replied, yes father, tomorrow morning I will set out for Baron Bellis's domain immediately. Halo closed his eyes tiredly and opened the paper, now about his majesty's letter. The emperor has summoned you, it seems your reputation has reached all the way to the capital. Karen pondered. Zara said the Emperor's letter reached the Blue Sea Fortress before grandfather returned. Karen thought, is the Royal Intelligence Network really that formidable? No, the current Emperor is just a figurehead. Surely it's the intelligence network of the wealthy nobles behind him. The two looked at each other, each harboring their own thoughts. Halo comforted Karen, if you don't want to go you don't have to. He guessed the boy must understand what going to the capital implies. The nobles in the capital will surely want to probe him. Perhaps it's better not to attract attention, so he doesn't need to go to the capital. Hale looked at him with a faint puzzled smile. Why would father need to give the boy a choice? Karen spoke up, the Emperor summoned me, of course I must go, and it's been a long time since I last saw grandfather. But I'll go alone, cousin Leo is also on duty with me. Halo explained, if you go then Leo will go with you. Also Hansa's team will escort the two of you. Karen was surprised, grandfather will be there, is an escort really necessary? Halo shot back, it's not because I dote on you, but because I don't know what new tricks you two might pull. Karen choked, yes. Halo ordered, you two may withdraw, you'll depart for the capital in 3 days, he replied, yes sir. By day warm light shone, Rohan's voice rang out, I think we can conclude the negotiations here. My lord Duke, thank you all for your efforts in the negotiations. Hale spoke, young Baron Bellis, does your father know of these terms? Rohan nodded, assured, of course, my father agrees to them. Hale analyzed, the mine shares are split 80-20. With the huge profits from magic or, even a small portion yield significant economic power. But I can't understand the clause granting Bellis 5% to Karen and Leo, wouldn't that be too disadvantageous to the Bellis house? There's no denying those two children handled your requests excellently, but that is an overly generous reward. Graduating top of the Royal Academy, you must have a reason for this, it's overly generous as compensation, don't you think? Rohan admitted it was to win over the two young wolves Karen and Leo. Hale fell silent, he doesn't even bother to hide his intentions. Rohan explained, Bellis is making an investment. One day, one of these two children will lead the Blue Sea Fortress. Hale was surprised, so confident in the two kids' potential. Hale remarked, is that so? Such a bold decision, Baron Bellis has raised a capable son. Rohan smiled, I am no match for you sir. So let's see what the children think. Karen showed a feral look when mentioned and replied, of course we accept. Leo thought to himself, why does he smile like that again? Sharp Karen replied, we are happy to accept, we hope to maintain a strong relationship in the future. Rohan politely said, it's an honor for me to cooperate with such a great house. Outside at the dock Leo was curious, Karen, I have a question. How should we divide the shares we receive? Karen nonchalantly made Leo pale, of course I get 9, you get 1. Leo protested, why do you get so much? Karen growled as he stepped up, patted Leo's shoulder and raised a fist, cousin have you lost your taste for life lately to speak to me that way? Leo fearful. Karen threatened, of course you should get 1, if you go back on your word later you'll be in big trouble. Leo agreed in fear, fine. Hale watched and laughed heartily, these two used to bicker a lot as kids, and now they're inseparable. He smiled warmly at the two of them. Leo exclaimed, unbelievable, I'm about to go to the capital. You said you've only heard about it and don't really know, what should we do now? From inside the room laughter rang out, cousin toned that down a bit. Leo sat opposite Karen and continued, we're about to be presented to His Majesty, so what's wrong with making a bit of a scene? Oh right, Leo covered his face bashfully, we'll attend social parties won't we? I heard the capital is full of beauties. Karen sighed under his breath, he doesn't even. A voice rang from the window, Sabina said, Dekas is an interesting place, crowded and full of mighty warriors. Leo saw her and asked, Master, how did you get up there? She didn't answer. Leo added, it will be a great experience. Sabina came from the window to the table, don't you kids have a cup? I came to congratulate you on your first mission. Leo promptly stood and offered his seat to his elder. Karen replied, Master, are you really going to look for a drinking cup from a 13-year-old's room? She didn't forget to add, it's just a water glass. Sabina held the glass calmly, as long as it can hold wine any cup will do. She handed each a cup of water. I'll let Karen's case pass for now since he treats stealing wine like a meal. Leo received the cup and exclaimed at Sabina's words. Seeing his expression she asked, have you ever drunk alcohol? Leo honestly, yes I've drunk. Karen gave you a few sips. Sabina sighed, so he dragged you into becoming an accomplice. Karen laughed, being beaten together is still more fun isn't it? Sabina poured wine into a cup. Leo, here, take it, a gift from your master. don't be formal. She also poured for Karen, she praised both for maturing admirably. Karen returned the compliment without restraint, saying it's all thanks to Sabina's teaching. Sabina set the bottle on the table. The 3 years I promised my brother, it's over now. She lamented, I won't witness the chaos you two will cause in the capital with my own eyes. Leo choked up, Master, you welled up, I've heard you're returning to the North Sea, so will we never see you again? Karen saw Leo's expression and sighed. Sabina looked at his tearful face and said, being so sentimental like this, how will you talk to the noble ladies in the capital? She told Leo, if you attend the party don't go with Karen. Both were surprised. Leo asked, what do you mean? Sabina was blunt, just look at his appearance, talent and Karen's smooth tongue, you can't predict what will happen. That will be the scene of the noble ladies surrounding Karen. Leo shuddered at the thought and shrugged, Karen, please don't obstruct my love life. Karen shouted angrily, where do you think you're going, you simple fool? Sabina, seeing the children noisy, told them to be quiet and drink. Karen said, right cousin, stop talking nonsense, finish your cup. Under candlelight and the silent night, Halo sat drinking alone in the room. A knock sounded at the door, Father, it's Pale, come in. Pale entered respectfully, you summoned me, Halo said, yes, I heard the negotiations with the Bellis house concluded successfully. He continued, I didn't expect they would concede part of their shares to Karen and Leo. Pale thinks the young baron's opinion carries weight. Pale said, he called it an investment for the future. Halo nodded, Baron Bellis has raised a rather sharp son. He said, anyway everything went well, having a strong ally isn't bad. Halo entrusted all Bellis-related matters to Pale from now on. Pale solemnly, I will not let you down. Halo poured a glass of wine and handed it to Pale, here, take it, thanks father. Pale sensed Halo had more to say because he was sparing with praise, perhaps related to Karen's trip to the capital. Just as expected, Halo spoke, Pale, as you know, His Majesty has never personally summoned any member of the family except me. He continued, in that respect, Karen's journey to the capital is extremely unusual. Pale correctly guessed it was about Karen. Halo recounted, in a recent private meeting, he saw fear in His Majesty's eyes when looking at me. He added, it must stem from the horror that I could depose him, as I did with the tyrant, and that's also why he suspected the influence of another power here. Pale asked directly, do you believe there's a political plot behind this? I do believe so. Pale thought that considering the political situation in the capital, where powerful houses collude, he could have refused immediately, but did not. Halo replied, you are correct. Pale asked why. Halo said, he wanted to see Karen's medal. Pale was surprised. Halo explained, Karen was chosen by guillotine, the founder's blade of the family, which means Karen's destiny must stand at the center of the house. Furthermore, as a member of House Reston, Karen must face external forces. Pale worried the boy would face constant danger. Halo said, that is also why I did not refuse His Majesty's request, because to bear the future of this house, the kid must withstand that pressure. Halo asked back, are you worried? Pale drained his glass. Halo looked inside without saying more. Pale spoke up, Father. He said decisively that he trusted Karen. Seeing Pale's resolute attitude, Halo said nothing. He exhaled softly and smiled, trusting his son. A fine answer. Dawn broke. Sabina and her horse began to leave. Zeres asked, aren't you seeing Karen and Leo off? Sabina thought and replied, it's not necessary. Last night she happily shared Zeres's wine with the kids. Zeres was helpless. I didn't expect you still wouldn't relent on the last night. Sabina said, moreover today the kids will be busy preparing to depart for the capital, it's better to leave quietly. Sabina mounted her horse and bade farewell. I look forward to the day we meet again, Zeres said, by then I'll stock more wine. Sabina noticed Karen watching her from the upper floor. He bowed his head slightly in greeting. She smiled in return. Without another word, she spurred her horse away, then farewell. Sabina left Karen a letter. I'll return to the North Sea now, it's like home to me, so you can come any time you want, I'll wait for you with fine wine. Karen smiled recalling the letter's content. He watched Sabina and the horse fade into the distance. He didn't expect her to leave with just a letter. Karen thought now that his master had gone, the elders would begin to act. A voice called out, Tails said, I heard she's gone already. Karen was surprised to see him, right on cue. On the day Karen and Leo set out, the steward's voice rang out, the young master's luggage has all been loaded onto the carriage. Sir Steward, you haven't forgotten their formal and everyday clothes, have you? Yes, we've packed them all. Karen heard Zeres's voice echo and immediately asked, Sir Zeres, do we need to be so ostentatious? Zeres explained that they were representing the house to audience His Majesty, so this was necessary. Although agreeing, Karen remained dissatisfied. Exactly why is Hans's squad coming along? Zeres replied calmly that they were going to protect the two of them. Hans spoke up saying because they might cause trouble. Karen immediately retorted, shut up Hans. He looked at the group annoyed, thinking there were too many troublemakers around. Earlier after Sabina left, Tails came to Karen, good morning sir, are you well? Good morning. Tails asked, those two are on their way to the capital right? He replied, His Majesty invited us. Before he finished Tails interrupted, Karen, may I say something? Yes sir. Tails warned Karen not to behave in the capital like at the Blue Sea Fortress, you know what I mean so I won't say more, yes. Karen understood Tails was openly admitting he had been watching him all along. Tails continued that many enemies in the capital wanted to divide the house. If you give them any excuse then I myself will severely punish Karen. He smiled lightly and replied, thanks for your golden words, I will not disappoint your expectations. He turned and walked away, alright then, safe travels. Yes sir. Karen watched Tails's retreating back. Without further thought, he smirked inwardly, dare to threaten to punish me severely. Karen disliked Tails's attitude, trying to undermine me just because you are the eldest son, I'll make that arrogant face of yours distort. He watched Tails and thought to himself, just wait. At that moment an announcement rang out, we are ready to depart. Karen pointed at Hans and said, Hans, if you cause trouble I won't forgive you. Hans wanted to say something. Actually I have something to tell you. Ura ran over from afar, young master, what's wrong? He thanked Karen for giving him the chance. Oh that matter, Karen laughed. Blurred out we sent him to the capital to throw him in prison. Ura stammered, what? Karen said, I told you not to get greedy. The announcement reached Hans that everyone had boarded the ship. Hans saluted Zeres, Commander, I'm off. Karen continued teasing Ura, young master, please don't abandon me, let's see how you behave. Zeres advised, you two don't cause trouble in the capital and return safely. Karen sneered, with that many warnings people will think we're a bunch of troublemakers. Zeres replied bluntly, old habits die hard. Karen clicked his tongue. Hale's voice called from afar, Karen, wait a moment. Karen looked at his father and asked, are you at the Blue Sea Fortress? Hale, sweating and panting, said, did your grandfather call me here? Moreover, he said he wanted to see you once before you leave. The words made Karen slightly surprised. Hale added, and your maternal grandfather in the capital is also eagerly awaiting your arrival. Karen replied, I also want to see him soon. Hale smiled kindly, I bet your maternal grandfather has prepared a mountain of gifts. Hale patted Karen on the shoulder. The words gentle but firm, return safely. And don't cause too much trouble. Leo smiled softly at Hale's words. Karen rolled his eyes and looked over. What are you smiling at? Tails sat in the room looking out the window holding a book and murmured. The kids have left. Tails's face stern, he had just received news that the second prince's wife was plotting something in the capital. Tails told his subordinates not to get involved in that matter. The final train finally departed. Karen sat on the train and hurriedly asked, exactly when will we arrive? Hans, how much longer until the capital? Hans replied, about 6 hours, we will pass through the autonomous territory of Thebe, the Thebe territory. Leo said, Thebe is a unique city where commoners elect the mayor, it develops commerce and industry more than agriculture. Karen added that it is the place where the most money circulates in the empire. Hans continued, because their money equals social status. Their immense wealth gives them great influence in the empire, so lords from other regions must always be cautious of them. Karen pondered then said, I heard locals sometimes flee to autonomous territories to escape tyrant lords, yes, but they have friendly relations with our Blue Sea Fortress. Hans said they sometimes award large contracts to the Sea Wolf Knights. Karen said if there's a chance he would like to visit. The train announced it was approaching the autonomous territory of Thebe. He said he would sneak out to explore after the schedule. Leo also wanted to join. Karen felt something amiss. Guillotine was reacting to something. It emitted a source of energy. Guillotine reacting meant it had detected a threat. He looked at the sword and wondered if Tails or Raphale had planted someone among the attendants. He examined Hans's sword thinking they wouldn't be foolish enough to be so reckless. Hans called, Karen. He briefly thought, if that's the case then. He ordered to contact Thebe's commander immediately. Why such a sudden order? Karen rose firmly, there's no time to explain. Alert the other cars to prepare to attack. Hans didn't understand but obeyed. Hans quickly notified the retinue to ready for an assault. Karen thought if the threat was external, how could they attack a moving train? A hooded man holding rope stood outside. Watching the train, he ordered his men. It started. The men acted. They intended to ignite what lay ahead to make it explode and endanger the train. Seeing the train approach, he urged them, "They're coming faster." The subordinate watched the fire spread to the oil barrel. It set. Everyone prepared for the explosion. Yes. The train was very near, the prow only a few meters from the charge. A huge blast rang out, sending birds scattering in panic. In the Tebe territory, unceasing arguments echoed. "The National Tax Office is crushing us," one shouted. Another bellowed, "Who's to blame for being caught laundering money?" The quarrel grew more heated. "What, it's all our fault? Are you so great then? Who do you think you're pointing at?" The two loudly pointed fingers at each other. "Mayor, you must deal with these criminals now." "What, who are the criminals?" The mayor sighed, holding his head. "If I'd known, I wouldn't have come." The bickering continued unabated. "It's really impossible to reason with commoners." He sighed at the scene. "I should have retired after finishing my term as finance minister. Why did I throw myself into this mayoral role?" The man beside him watched quietly. He once thought this was a splendid city where everyone was equal regardless of status. The arguing never stopped. "Oh, so you nobles are so lofty, you even seized our manastone bidding rights. What, watch your mouth. Commoner dare be insolent. This place really is a battlefield between commoners and nobles." The mayor clutched his head in pain. "Isn't this a complete mess?" Someone opened the door and stepped in. "Mayor." Everyone paid attention as the man whispered in his ear, "I understand." After hearing him order his subordinates to withdraw, "Yes, Mayor." Someone asked, what urgent news could interrupt the whole meeting like this? Could it be the tax inspectors? He lit a cigarette calmly. "Don't worry, tax inspectors are nothing now." Everyone murmured, "What do you mean?" "The tax inspection was cancelled." He exhaled smoke and laughed. "Not yet, but forget the tax inspection." The curious man asked, "What on earth is going on?" The mayor announced that 5 minutes ago the Reston family's train en route to the capital exploded. Apparently the Duke Halo's nephews were all on that train. Someone blurted, "What the hell are you saying?" He glanced, "Am I saying something odd?" He decisively tossed his cigarette into his glass of wine. "What else could it be? We're all done for." Karen's train was blown up, half overturned, smoke billowing. Karen regained consciousness after the shock. He stood up and surveyed his surroundings. Hans stood before him with Leo and the others. "Are you hurt anywhere?" "Just a slight scratch." Hans immediately ordered a status report. A voice rang out, 11 people, 1 severely injured and 2 minor injuries. Among them the severely injured is Dale. In another carriage there were 2 casualties. Karen heard Ura's report and realized the situation was serious. He asked Hans if he knew their current location. Hans replied they were about 10 kilometers from the Tebe Autonomous Territory. He added he had contacted the Autonomous Territory before Leo regained consciousness. "They are probably dispatching troops now." Hans instructed, "While my team holds the enemy, Karen and Leo should run far away. Do you understand what I'm saying?" Karen ignored him and looked at Guillotine reacting. "That means." He saw someone's leg outside. He drew his sword ready. "There's an attacker." Karen drew his sword. He answered Hans, "I'm sorry but I can't do that." Hans was stunned. "Yes, why not?" Karen said slowly, "They destroyed the railway, His Majesty's priceless property. Their crime is tantamount to treason." "How far do you think we can run? His cousin's leg is injured too." Karen asked Leo, "Can you still fight?" Leo gripped his sword. "A firm yes." Karen said, "Then there's only one way left, isn't there?" As soon as he finished he attacked the man outside before they could act. He severely wounded the man's leg. The brat in the carriage looked viciously at the kneeling man and shouted, "Kill them all, then finish him off." The leader just stared. 3 men stepped out of the carriage to face the crowd. "They're more numerous than I thought." The squad shouted, "Second team dismount, protect the young masters." A troop squad charged out. Their numbers roughly matched the enemy. Hans assessed, "These are all seasoned fighters of at least rank 3. Moreover the leader." Everyone looked at the leader, a seasoned fighter of rank 6. He called out, "Karen Reston." Karen replied, "Yeah, drop your weapons and surrender." He recognized his voice distorted by magic. He continued, "If you cooperate obediently we'll spare your knights and servants." Karen asked Hans, "Their target is me, do you know what that means?" Hans worried, "No way young master, you can't." Karen stepped forward, "What's impossible? They're no match for me." Hans held his face watching Karen advance. What a headache. Hans ordered the soldiers to protect him. Karen quickly wounded an approaching enemy. Both sides surged forward. Battle erupted. The clash of swords rang out. Karen was intrigued by the fight. He feared no one. He ordered, "Charge all of you." The enemy stood still, not coming forward. "Then let me pass through." One of them said damn that kid's no joke, the other replied I know this wasn't in the contract. The leader looked at Karen and declared everyone clear the way for me. He solemnly affirmed he would deal with Karen. He was amused. Oh, finally the leader shows his face. A silhouette darted up surprising Karen. Hans stepped before the leader saying he's a tough opponent, young master, please stand back. The leader showed no mercy, you're just digging your own grave. See Wolf Knight. Hans was resolute, try me and see. The two began to clash. Hans showed no fear and lunged at the leader. He remained unflinching, calmly receiving Hans's attack. They collided violently. The sound of metal striking metal rang ear-piercingly. He sensed something amiss and glanced at Hans. Not missing the chance, Hans launched a powerful strike, but he deftly evaded. Hans felt the formidable strength of his opponent. He realized the man had redirected his blow. The leader moved slightly. Hans watched with suspicion. He suddenly realized something. No way, a 6-star knight from the kingdom of Pajar Cheyenne Hakimi. Hans pondered, wondering why a Pajar knight would appear in the empire after all. The empire and kingdom have a non-aggression pact. After a moment Hans wondered why they targeted Karen. The kingdom of Pajar and the Reston family had no enmity. Without overthinking, Hans decided to investigate later since the battle was turning in their favor. Leo and Karen's soldiers easily dispatched the brats. Both fought excellently. Thinking Hans saw him preparing to strike, he quickly intercepted the surprise attack. He sneered, do you still have time to be careless? See Wolf Knight. Hans was not inferior, replying immediately, your formation has collapsed. Cheyenne Hakimi. Hans counterattacked, forcing him to retreat. The two were evenly matched. Hans said resistance is useless, surrender. He doubted, you say my formation has collapsed? He looked back, his subordinates had been completely wiped out. I see, so that's it. Hans counseled, if you surrender at least we'll spare your life. No need to die in a foreign land. He replied he didn't want to argue with someone unreasonable, so I'll just focus on completing my mission. Hans saw his eyes bloodshot from burst veins. He used defensive mana to launch a barrage of attacks at him. Hans grew more solemn. Witnessing this, he thought, could it be he has no intention of surviving and returning? Hans tensed. At this rate, forget capturing him alive. Even the young masters are in danger, unless I unleash my mana. He became like a blazing red fire dragon aiming at Hans. Hans closed his eyes, preparing to release his mana. At that moment Karen spoke up, Hans, I'm a bit disappointed in you. As Hans began to release magic, Karen was already behind the enemy somehow. Didn't you come with me to stop me from causing trouble? The leader immediately detected his presence. Karen entered the fray, saying to Hans, so you were about to give up? He suddenly redirected his attack at Karen. He replied, yes, that's right, I am Karen Reston. A decisive strike severed his arm. It fell to the ground along with the sword before Hans. He snarled angrily, calling out, Karen Reston, you're truly a monster. Karen laughed loudly, are you praising me? Thanks. But he froze, looking at the guillotine sword vibrating violently. He knew its trembling was a sign of danger. You bastard, what other tricks do you have? Hans frowned, more worry. A strange murderous aura enveloped him. I hold no grudge against you. Sorry, Karen Reston. Karen suspected he had other methods. Hans noticed something wrong, shouted, whole squad protect young Master Leo. Leo didn't understand, stunned by the scene. The squad immediately surged forward to encircle and protect him. Hans rushed toward Karen, young master. A powerful energy burst from the leader. Karen, confused, asked, Hans, what's happening? Why are you doing this? Hans explained he was using a self-destruct spell to end his life. It's because I'm too incompetent. I'm sorry, young master. Karen. Karen didn't expect him to self-destruct. The energy radiated more powerfully than ever. Hans prayed, so please, I beg you survive. A horrific explosion occurred. Hans watched the explosion begin. Another voice rang out, truly a foolish master. Haven't tasted a knight's blood in a while, so I'll make it worth my time. The unconscious voice continued, if you don't want to explode your eyeballs then shut your eyes tight. Hans heard the call, Hans, get up. Karen kicked him, how long do you plan to lie there? Hans retorted, damn kid, I wasted effort shielding you. After the explosion Hans still ached, seeing that Karen was annoyed. Didn't I ask you to save me? The voice rang out, without me things wouldn't have gone so smoothly. Karen held the sword, the voice continued, you were almost stripped down to the bone, so you should be grateful. Hey, you hear that? Karen looked at the talking sword, mouthy, he thought. Could it be a cursed sword? Karen glanced at the others, the sword suddenly spoke, a cursed blade. He replied back, isn't it a cursed sword? I've heard that blades forged by mad smiths using souls as material can talk like you. The sword replied angrily, dare compare me to those cursed blades again and I'll cut your head off. Karen scoffed, if you planned to behead me over such a trifle then why did you rescue me earlier? The sword mocked, poor fool, if I hadn't spent mana saving you from that explosion I'd have slit your throat long ago. Hans took a cautious stance, don't attract more enemies, but Karen raised a hand to stop him, rest assured I'm not your enemy, while the sword kept jabbering, be grateful, I've used up all my stored mana, exhausted. Karen frowned and asked seriously, do you only absorb mana by killing enemies? The sword answered, if you prefer I can siphon mana from your blood. A mounted knight rode up to introduce himself, I'm Hirai, captain of the militia of the Tebe Autonomous Territory. Karen sheathed the sword thinking, craving the master's blood, you really are a cursed blade. Hans introduced, hello I'm Hans, vice captain of the 2nd squad of the Sea Wolf Knights. The sword interrupted, Karen exclaimed, wait, sheathing prevents you from talking to me anymore. Karen shot back, really, fine, then shut up and sleep. The sword cursed inwardly in annoyance, bastard. Hans finished introductions, this is the Grand Duke Halo's nephew, he's Karen Reston. Hirai lifted his visor solemnly, the Tebe territory deeply regrets that you have encountered this incident. By the mayor's orders we came to escort the Duke's party to safety, Karen replied, understood, sorry to trouble you, we have many wounded. Shortly they mounted their horses. Karen silently stared out the window. Hans asked young Master Karen, are you sure you won't return to the Blue Sea Fortress? The militia and knights will stay to investigate, but we don't know when there will be results. It's still too early to conclude the threat has vanished. Karen lazily replied, I told you it's fine, I contacted Lord Zeres before we left, he's probably on his way here. Hans, you always worry excessively, that's your problem. The Royal Guard troop from the capital has likely already departed, so don't worry too much. More importantly, do you know who self-destructed? Hans quietly folded his arms and replied, that person. He was a 6-star knight of the Kingdom of Pajar, Cheyenne Hakimi. Karen's expression darkened, he repeated cautiously, the Kingdom of Pajar, silently analyzing, the neighboring nation across the desert to the east of the Empire, the Kingdom of Pajar. Could the Grand Duke Halo's non-aggression pact be shaky? This is more complicated than I thought, Karen frowned. Hans added, relations between the Empire and the Kingdom have indeed soured, but not to the extent of staging something like this. Karen turned to the man beside him and asked, even so, this alone is enough to spark a war, don't you think? Leo mumbled, yes, I am truly sorry, I couldn't hear clearly why my hand is like this. Karen frowned, that was your first time killing someone, it's understandable, taking another person's life is never easy, but you must get through it, cousin, that's life. Hirai ran to the window to report, we're about to arrive at the autonomous territory. Karen looked out and swore, damn, it's truly splendid. The bustling city with massive architecture. Leo agreed, I agree. A man waved cheerfully and greeted, welcome to the Tebe Autonomous Territory. We are truly relieved that you have reached safety. Tebe will do its best to find who is behind this incident. Of course we will fully cooperate with the Reston family's investigation. Karen cut in, I know Tebe is not involved in this attack. Hans added, that's right, Mayor Grain, you can rest assured. Grain hesitated, is that so? Hans blinked, you look different from when you were finance minister. Grain sighed, don't mention it, Hans, if I hadn't accepted this damn mayoral post, oh dear, I'd be saying foolish things in front of the honored guests of the ducal family. Karen laughed, please speak freely, Mayor, I feel a bit uncomfortable hearing an elder use honorifics with me. Grain panicked waving his hand, how could I speak casually with the lineage of a great duke? Karen joked, perhaps you should show sincerity by kneeling. Grain startled and corrected himself, Mr. Grain misspoke, I am very grateful and accept your kindness, Karen. Then let us go somewhere else to continue discussing. Karen kept a smile, yes, let's do that. Come inside, Grain exclaimed in surprise, smuggling, Karen patiently said, the attackers destroyed the railway tracks with explosives, not mana. You know it's impossible to get explosives without going through the Arms Supply Bureau, Grain stammered, yes that's true but, Karen continued, but the Arms Bureau is under strict imperial control, so explosives leaking out is nearly impossible. But what if the explosives were smuggled into the Empire from outside, for example explosives manufactured in the Kingdom of Pajar? Grain froze and started, makes sense, only the Empire and the Kingdom can produce explosives of that quality. Karen added, if some Tebe trading caravans are involved in such smuggling, would that cause trouble for you, Mayor? Grain fell silent watching Karen, thinking, a startlingly sharp deduction. He spoke up, indeed Mr. Karen, as you said, smuggling seems the most reasonable hypothesis. Karen smiled, isn't that so? Thinking inwardly, if you disagree you might be suspected as an accomplice. Thanks to those dumb smugglers others are easy to pin the blame on, Karen added. Mayor, you only need to remember one thing. Grain asked, what is that? Karen solemnly, members of the Sea Wolf Knight Order and the Blue Sea Fortress suffered casualties in this incident. Grain paused, so they are using this as an excuse to cause trouble with the Restons. Those who receive favors repay tenfold, those wronged repay 100-fold, if you don't cooperate consider yourself finished. For now we need to steer the conversation elsewhere. Grain awkwardly, how is your grandfather lately? Karen frowned, you know my grandfather. Grain smiled, of course I and your grandfather Heinrich are sworn brothers. Karen exclaimed laughing, suddenly recounting connections is very politician-like. Grain broke into a sweat and stammered, isn't it that connections come first then money? A flustered person ran in calling for the mayor. Urgent news from the capital, Grain said indifferently, if it's about the royal guard having departed I already know. The man went pale, it's not just the royal guard. The head of the tax bureau himself has set out leading squad 1, Grain turned in shock, the tax chief. He is the man nicknamed the Demon King, Tax Commissioner Gale Ferreton. Grain's face went ashen, he asked, Commissioner Gale is coming in person. Karen, did you foresee this? His body trembled. Karen smiled smugly, yes, because you love me so much, you can drop everything to rush and save your troubled nephew. In the Tebe Autonomous Territory, everyone who had been merry suddenly saw a procession of knights pass by. Each wore a grave expression. Leading them was Gale Ferreton. In a narrow alley of furtive I watched them. He remarked that because it involved the nephew, he would arrive very quickly. At Mayor Grain's office the crowd gathered and shouted loudly, a sudden tax investigation, what on earth is going on? You said it was scheduled but you're carrying it out tonight. Must we endure an audit with no time to prepare? Even as a figurehead mayor you should give us some time. And it's squad 1 besides, how are we supposed to cope? Grain shouted trembling with anger, you bastards, you're going too far. Don't you realize the seriousness of this? He slammed the table hard. Karen stepped in, standing in the aisle and shouting, Mayor Grain is right. Not only was His Majesty's railway destroyed but the Grand Duke Halo's nephew and men from the Blue Sea Fortress were also attacked with explosives. Suspected smuggling through Tebe's trade caravans. How can that be? Have you all understood the matter? The crowd looked at one another in confusion, but one man quietly observed everything. A man stepped forward to explain, no, what we mean is you should give us more time to prepare. Karen raised an eyebrow and who are you? He startled and hastily introduced himself, I am Baron Humor of the Humor Trading Convoy. Karen smiled, I understand, I will be sure to pass your name to the tax commissioner, who is also my grandfather. The man panicked and his voice dropped, I misspoke, please go easy on me. Just then the door made a noise. A man opened the door to announce, this is squad 1 of the tax bureau, the commissioner is entering. The crowd fell silent and turned their eyes to the man who slowly stepped in. Gale pointed at them and sternly barked, from this moment your trade convoys will undergo tax investigation. The tax bureau has received reports of illicit profiteering through smuggling and tax evasion. His Majesty the Emperor has ordered a comprehensive investigation. You are required to fully cooperate with this inquiry. Karen smiled and sighed softly, he looks more like a soldier than a government official. Leo turned to ask Hans, hey Hans, is Squad 1 really that terrifying? Hans explained briefly, Squad 1 specializes in handling large trading convoys and the nobility, given the targets they deal with they can mobilize the royal guard. Leo added, if you don't pay your taxes you'll be beaten to a pulp, so yes they're truly frightening. Back again, Karen was startled to see Gale standing before him, but he beamed, it's been 3 years, how have you been? Karen replied politely, yes grandfather. The two went out to the garden. He asked again, are you sure you don't need another examination? Karen answered, yes I'm fine. Gale returned to a stern expression, have you suspected anyone as the mastermind yet? Karen smiled, not yet. Gale propped his chin and judged that it wasn't an internal family matter. Karen shook his head, if it were my uncles they wouldn't leave a single trace like those behind this incident. They deliberately left traces, as if they wanted us to conclude it was the work of the kingdom of Pajar. They didn't even bother to hide their identities. Gale placed a hand on his head and spoke sternly, Karen, do you want to find the culprit yourself and punish them? He objected, it's not that I don't know your talent, but the world is vast and full of the powerful, and danger still lurks here. So stay put and we'll go to the capital tomorrow morning. Seeing Karen remain silent, he added, His Majesty has ordered it as well, the adults will handle this. Karen laughed, yes grandfather, I'll be obedient. Then he looked straight ahead and gave a sinister smile. Gale looked at him thinking, oh dear. You have no intention of keeping your promise, do you, Karen? At the same time at the manor, a servant's voice rang out, hurry up and move it, it's the last shipment. Someone stepped out and shouted, why haven't you left yet? They replied, we're finished right here. A woman in the carriage asked anxiously, darling, aren't you coming with us? He answered, don't worry, I'll follow right after, my love. He signaled the servants to leave at once. They replied, yes sir. From inside the carriage a decisive call rang out, darling, father must hurry up. The man fell silent watching the carriage, then muttered, damn. A man on the roof watching reported, we evacuated the family first. Over the radio a voice asked, what about the pursuit? He answered, they are proceeding. The man turned and ordered, now continue cleaning up. The servant replied, yes lord. On the roof a stern voice over the radio said, there must be no mistakes. The man turned away and replied, orders acknowledged. Back with Karen, he was carefully polishing his sword. Someone entered and seeing him asked, polishing a sword at midnight, are you planning to cause trouble again? Karen didn't stop his hands and slightly frowned, surprised to be scolded just after arriving. Lord Zeres. Zeres stepped closer and said, I heard the commissioner banned you from going out. Karen asked back, are you going to stop me too? Zeres replied, I only came to deliver the master's order. Zeres spoke sternly, I will convey it now. Listen carefully, Karen Reston, youngest son of the Reston house, listen. Upon receiving this order, hunt down the perpetrators and repay the debt in blood for the dead. Show them the laws of the Blue Sea Fortress. Karen trembled. He smiled and spoke. Karen Reston, I obey the master's orders. He gripped his sword tightly. Zeres sighed, I have a feeling tonight will be a long night. Leo's concerned voice echoed through the bustling streets, Karen, must it go this far? Karen replied at once, to get news you have to go to the black market to learn. Leo fretted, I mean I get that, but why do I have to play the servant? Karen explained, we're heading to the eastern part of Thebes where illegal trades run rampant. If young nobles wander a place like that without a servant, wouldn't it draw unnecessary suspicion? Leo rubbed his head more worriedly. I understand that part, but why am I the servant? Karen reassured him, be quiet, we're almost to the place you mentioned. After a while of walking, the two stepped into a dark alley. Leo looked around fearfully. Karen, this place feels disgusting. Karen replied, if you're scared you can go back now, this isn't a place for young masters to come. Before he finished, Leo was frightened by something ahead. A man cloaked in black leaned against the wall and spoke, their appearance here means. Both took up defensive stances. Karen quickly grasped his sheathed sword ready to fight. The man introduced himself, hello, I was sent by Lord Zeres, it's an honor to escort the young masters. My name is Julio. Julio removed his hood and said, shall we move? A safe hideout has been prepared. They reached a door. Julio cracked it open. After entering he said, inside there are soundproof artifacts, so you can speak freely. Karen looked around, you must have worked hard here. Julio replied, I'm from Thebes. Karen wondered why someone from Thebes would spy for the Reston family. Julio honestly said, I'm just repaying a favor to Lord Zeres. Karen smiled, I see, so let's get straight to the point. Julio replied immediately, of course. Becoming serious, Karen recounted that those who knew they were heading to the capital attacked the smuggling train with explosives. Do you know who they are? Julio held a book and answered, yes. From what I've gathered there are a few groups trading explosives on the black market, precisely two groups. The Kur and Caligo groups, however Kur has consolidated its position in Thebes and they are gradually withdrawing from the black market. Karen took the book and asked, what about Caligo? Julio replied, they are a group of former slaves. They will do anything as long as there's money. Moreover, a source said members of Caligo left the city this morning. Karen slightly frowned. Leo asked, that morning was when we were attacked, right? Karen confirmed, yes, this is very suspicious. Caligo, former slaves will do anything for money, and Kur is withdrawing from the black market. Leo asked, not enough time to investigate both, so which do we choose? Karen smiled confidently, the answer is obvious. Those with nothing left to lose are always the most reckless actors. We'll go to Caligo, Julio suggested, I'll guide you to Caligo's black market. At the manor, Grain worried, sir, are you really comfortable letting Karen go alone? Gale frowned, the boy's grandfather personally sent a letter, do we have any other choice? Grain added, they say a wolf cub has its own path. Actually Karen asked me for a favor. Gale snorted. Grain said, he wants me to detain you by any means. He planned to act alone whether the Grand Duke permitted it or not. Gale worried, the boy really is. Grain comforted, don't worry too much, Karen has already proven his abilities. Gale replied, Even so, the boy is only 13 years old. Gale remained worried, but this is Thebes, a place where danger can strike at any moment. Some merchant caravans are buying influence by funding the central battlefields. Your son-in-law chose to stay at the border while other houses in the capital are doing their best to restrain the family. This place is full of people willing to do anything to gain favor from the great houses. This is Thebes. Exactly what I feared. That's also why the emperor had to intervene in Thebes. So the empire won't be steered by the personal interests of people like that. Grain shamefacedly said, I thought I would spend my final years in peace. Gale said, forget it. For now let's wait for Karen to finish the investigation safely. Grain remembered another matter you should know. Mason is in Thebes, Gale exclaimed. What? The immortal shield, the 8-star knight Mason, that means. In the alley, Julio said, we have arrived. Before the opening door, Karen nervously asked, is this the only entrance? Julio confirmed, yes. Karen noted, so in an emergency they can seal it from the inside. Truly ruthless. Come in. Julio took the book from the shelf. A passage appeared. Karen marveled, this is exactly like a black market. Julio asked, shall we go down? The three went down. Leo edged in cautiously. Karen doesn't look like he'll go down easily. Karen snorted. It turns out 2 people were already waiting below. Seeing Julio, one asked, Julio, long time no see, what's up? Julio extended his hand toward Karen and Leo. I brought customers. The other said coldly, I know you only deal with big spenders, but unfortunately today we aren't receiving clients. Get lost. Julio was astonished. Why is that? The other replied, orders from the boss. Julio asked, at least tell me the reason. The other said coldly, we don't know the reason either. Leave while we're still civil. Someone behind drew a small knife in defense. Karen sighed and asked, what is this? A sword? Are you going to cut us? Leo cried fearfully, young master. But Karen gripped his sheathed sword challengingly. Try it and see what happens. Leo panicked. Karen said, draw it if you dare. Leo begged, young master, I beg you. Karen ordered, Ura, switch to plan B. Leo, now playing Ura, was stunned, shaken. Plan B. What plan B? The two were ready to attack. Karen and Leo were no less ready, gripping their sword hilts.